Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, one and all. I do believe I should be live. Hello, friends. If you can see me, say potato. There we go. Potato shall be our safe word for today's stream. Welcome, one and all. Let me pop on some chill background music of the Civ 6 soundtrack as we discuss today. This is going to be quite interesting indeed, as I've played Civilization 7, and I thought it would be a good idea to talk about it. Now, you might say, where is Potato? Potato is about to be with me. He was just finishing off his dinner. He will be here in a second, and we shall talk about our experience playing Civilization 7. We will show off various features and things that we're allowed to talk about, show off some gameplay. What is this aspect ratio? This is the perfect aspect ratio for this media, because we're not here to actually. Well, we are going to showcase gameplay, but as we don't have control over the gameplay, the focus isn't really on the gameplay. It's more the game mechanics and the pictures and the things that we have been given and can talk about. I know. Now, many of you will have played Civilization. Many of you won't have. That's completely fine. I have played a lot of Civilization. I've played every single Civilization, excluding Civilization 2. And I very, very, very much enjoy the games. I have a fondness for grand strategies, and I have basically experienced the same things that you have and more. You will be coming into this having probably watched the trailer and listened to Ed Beach, the game's creative designer, have a conversation about the game and the direction that Civilization has gone in. I think it's quite important to say various things like every Civilization game is an innovation on the previous and is different. And as a result, everyone has their favorite Civilization game. My personal favorite is Civilization 4. I know for a lot of people, it's Civilization 5. For a lot of people, it's Civilization 6. For a lot of people, it's Civilization 6, but only when they play it with a bunch of hyper-competitive mods in multiplayer. Civilization is an odd game because everyone expects different things from it and is expecting a different gameplay constantly. Anyway, Potato is here. Call or Discord channel. We can call here, Potato. We can call. And as soon as Potato joins, I get to treat him to something wonderful. Potato, you watching my stream?
Hello. Can you hear me? I was watching.
Yeah, I can.
How did you do this nice vertical video? Oh, this is beautiful.
Watch this. Look, it's you.
And when I talk, I pop.
Oh, wow, you really pop. Let me fix that. Oh, my God.
No. This is actually matches my IRL energy, which you can confirm.
I can confirm you are an excited individual because you love video games like me. We both absolutely love playing video games. And so it only makes sense that we, two pro gamers, should hang out and talk about this latest upcoming video game. Because we have played it and no one else has, and the other people who have are stinky, and our opinions are more important, right? Right?
Correct. They are not experts at video games. Can you give me like a minute or two to get my own stream up?
Yeah, that's completely fine. That's completely fine.
Because I was just eating some din-dins.
No, that's fine. I hope your din-dins were good. What did you have for dinner?
I knew I was going to be busy today, so I couldn't cook a real meal for me and my partner. But what I did do was I got frozen gyoza.
Right? Oh, I
fried
know
them
the
off
ones.
in the pan.
Yeah.
Frozen gyoza. Fried them off in a pan. Threw a little water in after 5 minutes to give them a little steaming. Put the lid on. They came out beautiful, Japanese-style gyoza. Then I microwaved green curry. The green curry was sad and boring. Like the gyozas were perfect. Green curry, I sleep.
Yeah, I did not have quite as exciting a meal. I had like effectively a pastry, as my house is under construction at the moment. It's a complete mess. So yeah, that's all I've had. Oh dear. But yes, welcome one and all. This is.
So I'll tell you in like
A
5
few
minutes when I'm ready.
you're ready. Okay, that's fine. Sorry, yeah, I can't crump your vibe. You're in an incredible headspace, I'm sure. An unstoppable flow. Oh dear. I hope everyone enjoyed playing the Civilization. Well, actually, you know what? Now's a great time if you're watching to actually watch the Civilization 7 trailer, because we've all seen it, of course. And if you haven't, there's also a speech from the lead designer, which is probably worth listening to, as he talks about ages and, yes, that kind of thing, I would say. It's important because this is probably one of the main core pillars that I think is going to be the discussion point right up until everybody actually plays the bloody game. How much is the game going to cost at release? Well, if you have a spare 200 Australian dollars, you can buy the Founders Edition. Oh dear. Yeah, this is that is probably the main thing that I'm most annoyed about, is the fact that the game has a super deluxe giga premium edition, which is the Founders Edition, which is available for $120, and gives you access to. Oh, actually, wait, no, sorry. It's $120 on the Nintendo Switch and $130 on every other platform, which gives you a bunch of like pre-launch DLC and the ability to play the game early. But let's not forget the collector's edition, which I'm sure we'll talk about very quickly. Oh dear, that's my own stream. Oh dear, yeah.
But don't you love collecting things?
Look, I have played many games and I have enjoyed many a collector's edition. Now, what is a collector's edition? It is very simple. All you have to do is say that, oh, I love Skyrim, so I'm going to buy a version of Skyrim that comes with a physical copy of Skyrim and a map of Skyrim and maybe like a gold coin and maybe like a flag, that kind of thing. Something fun, maybe like an art book or like a lore guide, because, you know, I love that kind of thing. That's a collector's edition, right? Okay.
You.
So what if instead the collector's edition was just a bunch of physical gubbins and it doesn't actually include a copy of the game?
What? Isn't that what it's meant to be? Wait.
Yeah, have you not seen this? The collector's edition, which is a limited availability thing that you can get right now on the civilization.com website, does not come with the game.
What? Hold on.
Yeah.
Is it 2kgames.com or
No, civilization.com, and then I think it's not in pre-order because it'll be different, right? Let me find it. Yeah, they don't actually have the website for it. It's just on the fact sheet, which says, oh no, it's right at the bottom of the pre-order. Why would I need to pre-order? It's not the game. Let me quickly save.
Wait, so if I click pre-order here,
yeah,
and I click collector's edition.
Yeah, it's right at the bottom of the page. I'll bring up a picture of it so everyone can see. Let me bring in the collector's edition.
Please note that the Sid Meier's Civilization 7 collector's edition contains physical collectibles only and does not include a copy of the game.
So you will receive a logo pin, a yield icon patch set that you can sew into your, I don't know, Civilization uniform. You get postcards, a passage of time clock, a scout figure, and high quality art print inside of a premium package. So basically you're buying a clock. Yeah. And that will set you back 260 fucking pounds. What the?
Oh, that's a little weird.
What the balls? Oh my God. How expensive is this clock?
It's £306 for me.
£306 for you. Oh dear.
Without a copy of the game.
Without a copy of the game, yeah. Oh dear. Oh, that's a shame. Hi RT, how are you doing, RT?
Oh my God! Wait, no. On the on the website that I'm on, right?
Yeah.
There's two options. One says includes game, which is 306 euro.
Oh,
And then game not included is 163 euro. Okay, so maybe
okay. You can pay extra for the version that includes the game, but it's just the digital version of the game. You're still not actually.
you don't get a physical
No.
thing.
So without the game, it's £140 basically.
Okay, so it's still weird, but it's not like horrific like we thought.
I mean, I'd still say any game that comes with a collector's edition that doesn't feature the game isn't really a collector's edition. It's just a merchandise drop. So you shouldn't call it a collector's edition. Just call it, hey, we made some merch. You can buy it. Like if people want to
It should
buy,
be like a collector's kit, right?
yeah. If you
Not
want to
edition, because edition implies you're getting the game.
exactly. You're not. It's just you really just want those amazing postcards. You just really want to send a letter like, "Hey, Mum, sorry, I can't attend the family function today. I'm busy on holiday in the world of Sid Meier's Civilization 7. Here is a postcard to prove it." There you go. Then they'll understand. Oh dear.
I mean, I might buy this just because this is my job.
Yeah, I mean it's a clock at the end of the day. I like clocks, and I
a
also
nice
like
clock.
Civilization. But at the same time, I wish the game was included. Not that I care because I get the game for free anyway.
Yep, same.
Yes. Sorry, guys. I
The
actually think
power of being a YouTuber.
it is magical. I think we probably should get a slight disclaimer out the way if you're live in terms of like I guess what we did and what the rules of that are, because this isn't a sponsored thing. Just to be clear.
Correct. I think that's actually a great idea. Hold on, let me just set up ads on this stream so I can milk.
I'm not going to run any ads this stream. This stream is purely infotainment, okay? Purely infotainment.
Listen, I saw some of those Twitch streamer ad revenues, the people who were pressing the ad button every
Yeah.
5 minutes, they were making like 20K a month. Listen,
Yeah.
Potato wants to buy a Bugatti, okay? Listen, I'm going to hit that ad button.
I know there was a Rust streamer who was getting like 6K concurrent views, and he was just spamming the ad button whilst there was a Twitch drop going on. And I think he was making like 12 grand a stream or something like that. Yeah, so it's pretty spicy. Also, hi RT in the chat. Hope you're having a nice day.
Oh, let me... Spiff, can you talk right now? Just like raising
Blah
up
blah
your
blah
volume
blah
on
blah
my-
blah 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 blah. Civilization.
That's perfect.
Civilization.
That's perfect. Sorry, you were a little quiet on my end, and I hate it when someone is like, "Hey, can you turn up your microphone?" I'm like, "No, you turn up your computer, asshole."
Yeah, that's the solution. Oh, but yeah.
Okay, so should we? So, like you said, should we talk through our feelings on? Oh, no, we should do the disclaimers and upfront,
Yes.
like what happened.
Disclaimer. Yes. So, hello. I am the Spiffing Brit, and this is my colleague, Potato Merc Whiskey. We are
Hello.
both content creators, and we play Civilization games. In the past, we have played Civilization. I have never personally been sponsored to play Civilization. I think you have done a couple of videos with them. Yeah. I think that's all, right?
Correct. I have been sponsored to make a handful of videos and mostly short form content, 60 seconds or less.
Right, yes. So that's not really a sponsorship. That's just someone giving you £20 to buy Freddo. That's fine.
True.
So instead, a few weeks ago, myself, Potato McWhiskey, and a handful of other creators like RT Game in the chat, Ursa Ryan, and a bunch of other like press people who work for online articles like PC Gamer, were taken to the Firaxis studios, basically abducted against our will, and we were flown into Baltimore. I can say that of this trip, none of us received any money. We were purely had our travel expenses covered. Those travel expenses included one of the shittest economy flights I've ever taken in my life, and a absolutely wonderful stay at a 5-star hotel in Baltimore. However, they didn't cover
banging
my food.
hotel.
I want to see if I can get like that $30 burger back on expenses, because my God, that hotel's food was pricey. But yeah, so we went over there. We had our travel covered. We were given a introduction to the game. We were given a speech, probably a little bit more advanced than the one you saw from Ed Beach and the various people in the showcase yesterday. We were given a tour of the studios, which Potato had already toured around, so he knew everything and was like, "Oh, I've seen this wall of Lego before." And then we had like a little lunch in the offices. We were given 3 hours to play with the game. We had opportunities to interview the developers or call developers over and ask questions. And then after that, we went back to the hotel, had a meal with the developers again. This one was a very nice meal, actually. That was all covered by them. And then after various drinks and meals, everyone went to bed and woke up the next day, realizing that we then had to board another economy flight. So yeah, it was good fun. All whilst a tropical storm was going on.
Oh yes,
it was
that me and RT Game flew into. By the way, like we flew towards the storm. Like the turbulence on the way into Baltimore Airport, like it was a white knuckle affair. We were like gripping our seats, dude, and they were worried we were going to get turned back to a different airport. Like it was, oof.
Yeah. In comparison, our flight was a fair bit better. It was just delayed 4 hours, I think, which was good because it meant we basically had no turbulence. The downside was. I had to be in an airport at like midnight after everything had closed, waiting for a flight. And yeah, it was a bloody humid, horrible day. Yeah. So yeah, that was our Civilization 7 experience, I would say.
I will say this. My name was on the television in the hotel room when I got into the room.
That's
I don't know if
true.
anyone else had that. And there was a salted caramel chocolate chip cookie on my bedside table when I got. They rolled out the red carpet, okay? They were trying to impress.
Meanwhile, I had none of that. I had a mini bar with bottles in it that had metal caps on them and no bottle opener. So nothing in my... I got basically nothing in my hotel room. I also had terrible luck on the flights. Every flight I was on, I was sat next to someone who would always just like, you know, the kind of like person you sit next to who just like leans the head on you and falls asleep and just starts dribbling.
Oh, God.
Yeah, she's my wife, I know, but it was really embarrassing. Oh, dear. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Mango came along for the ride as well, although I paid for her transportation. She had very important business buying makeup in America to do.
Correct. It was a limited edition. So anybody in the audience who knows, just this is a quick aside, for who knows eyeshadow, I'm sure this is really popular in the Civilization community. Urban Decay, I believe is the name of the style of eyeshadow. And it was like 10 years ago, they did $1 billion eyeshadow launch. It was like one of the biggest eyeshadow launches ever. And Mango actually told me that it was all about the sheen and not the sparkle.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so Mango got, I think it was £1,000 round trip to buy. No, I'm just kidding. She flew to America to buy this limited edition eyeshadow that was only available in America. And she sold me on it so hard that I bought it. I bought a copy of this eyeshadow, okay, to give to my sister. And like I took a picture of it. I was like, "Oh, Jennifer, I found this like limited edition eyeshadow in blah 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 blah." And she was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! You're the best brother!" Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Easy plus brother points right there."
Yeah, that's easy. So yeah, that's the trip. We basically summarized the entire trip. We should probably talk about the game, I guess.
Can I talk about my very first impression?
Yes. Do you want to talk about your first impression playing the game or what Ed Beach said in the presentation?
Okay, well, for me, there's actually 3 phases. There was walking into the room, and it was like, oh, it was like they had done it up like a little museum experience. And there was like cloth draped from the ceiling and like little busts of Roman leaders and cuneiform tablets. It was all real historical and really cool.
Very cool.
And then I walked into the room. I was looking around. Oh, cool. I was like, oh, hey, Brian. Hey, Steven. Hey, this. Like people I recognized. And then I looked at one of the computers and I saw fucking Augustus's melted, pockmarked, horrendous face looking back at me. And I was like, oh, God, my career is over.
Yeah, let me get a
When I
picture of
saw
this.
the fucking leader picture, I was like, Jesus, it was so bad.
So I don't think I have a picture of Augustus, but here's Benjamin Franklin, who unfortunately kind of just looks like a shriveled testicle.
He looks like someone has anthropomorphized a ball sack.
It's kind of a problem. Now I've got to be honest. There are a lot of people who are going to get very very worked up about the character portraits in Civilization, in the same way that there are people who will get worked up about the music or the narrator in Civilization.
Yes.
To me, I don't care because I basically I don't engage with those systems. I play the games without music. I play the games without basically any audio, and well, in my spare time. And like, I don't really care about the character animations. Like, my favorite game is like, I've really loved playing Civ 3. And if you've seen what like Princess Victoria looks like in Civ, or is it Elizabeth? Like the leader for England in Civ 3 is like a sleep paralysis.
There's about 12 pixels.
Yeah, let me get a picture of her because holy shit! Yeah, she looks straight up like an SCP. Oh my god! I've got.
I agree with you. I think. Look, I didn't like the leader art, but again, I don't care. It's literally, it's irrelevant to me. I care entirely about gameplay. But my first impression was I did not like the leader art. I liked the. Oh my god, she does look like an SCP. Jesus.
Yeah, like this is. If you told me that this is a extraterrestrial being that sucks out the happiness from children whilst they sleep at night, I'd be like, yeah, of course, that's definitely what it would look like.
Yeah, like there's little hands behind her eyeballs that deploy to suck the souls of children out. Like Jesus.
Yes, you will buy the collector's edition. It does not come with the game.
Who said wood in chat? There, five Jesus. Jesus.
Oh my god. I can also see the comparisons with Squidward now that people are mentioning. There is that, yeah, the frontal lobe, definitely. Wow. So yeah,
there is definitely Squid vibes here.
I think you're right in that first impressions, when you see the like character portraits, opening with the character portraits, I would say is not good. In comparison, if they just opened with like a picture of the map, I'd be like, whoa.
Oh.
Because that is a sexy thing. When they were doing the presentation and the guy came out and said, yeah, our inspiration was like dioramas and model train sets. I'm like,
I'm in.
Speak to me more, good sir. Tell me more about these model train sets and where are you hiding them? And
yes,
I very much, I got that from the game. I've really, really, really enjoyed it. Yeah.
It did. It felt like I was playing around with like a little model, like museum set or a train set that had that beautiful vibe. Yeah.
You just want to like crawl down inside of it and walk around the streets, which is what I love.
Gorgeous. I can't wait until we have like the first person Civ 7 mod where you could walk around the cities.
I remember they had that in Rome Total War, which is kind of like a really dumb feature that nobody needed. But I'm
sure it takes like 5 minutes to implement though, right? No matter how terrible it is.
Oh,
it doesn't have to be a good feature.
No, it just has to be like the button in the bottom left-hand corner that you press and it's kind of fun. RT did mention an entertaining thing that I forgot about, which is the weirdness with the animations popping in for the leaders. And now this is, of course, just a bug, but like you see Benjamin Franklin holding like the stick. The stick would be like vibrating like a clipping issue in like Gary's mod.
Like,
which
yeah,
is
like
really
imagine...
funny.
I have my camera on, right? Imagine I'm holding my phone, and the phone is just like traveling around my hand randomly.
Yeah.
Just like... And also their hair would do that. Their hair, like at one point I was looking Hatchet, I don't know how to say her name, the Egyptian leader, and her hair was just like slowly migrating to the back of her head and then migrating forward again. And it was really unsettling. It was like she had a head crab on her.
Oh dear. Yeah, it's like, it's very funny. That kind of thing is just kind of like early days and something that, you know,
the game is alpha or whatever, right? Or beta.
Well, what we played is what a developer would call a vertical slice, right?
Yes.
So we were limited to the first age, just 3 hours of play. Not all
4 leaders.
features were included. Yeah, just 4 leaders. Like 4 civilizations that we could mix and match between, and ultimately, like a lot of the stuff there does feel quite rough around the edges. Lots of tooltips missing. Lots of like basic UI functionality not there. I think the main concern, the developers were really looking for a lot of feedback because this is the first time they'd shown the game off to the public. And the one thing I felt I didn't need to complain to them about was the UI, simply because everyone else already had. There was not a single like creator or press person there who wasn't like, look, the map looks wonderful, but when you slap the UI over it, it looks like you want to crawl up inside and die. Like it just sucks the life and in like life force is the only way I describe it. It really is just Queen Victoria sucking your life out of the game in terms of the UI.
Jesus. No, here's the thing about the UI, right? What was bad about the UI is that it was unfinished,
Yes.
right? Like the actual, like the core concept of the UI is fine, right? It's like, okay, it's like these kind of matte blocks of color with like little delicate decorations on the edges. It's just like text was too small, pictures was too small, there wasn't enough information, so on and so forth. Like the core concept, it just needs a little tweaking here or there, but it was like here, right? Like that text, like look at the top left, right? Like the numbers there way too small.
I think it was exacerbated for our playtest because we were playing on 4K monitors, but they hadn't scaled the UI up. So the UI was in 1080p, and for certain people with vision impairments, I know RT doesn't have vision impairments, but he really struggled with the UI. I'm so used to playing Counter-Strike with my face like 1 inch away from the monitor, so it was okay. I was okay with it. Yeah, but oh my goodness, this has actually reminded me of a bug. I've just kind of landed on it perfectly. If you have time, I'm happy to do a little exploit tangent, Potato.
Oh, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so this is a view of the Egyptian leader playing as Egypt. So this is kind of like a historical accurate approach. One of the main changes with Civ 7 is you can take any leader and whack them with any like civilization. In my case, I played as Augustus as Egypt, and I played as Egypt for one very simple reason. They had a unit called the Medjay, which was free. It had no upkeep, and that's amazing. I then discovered in the game that this little civic here that you can research gives you a thing whereby Medjays grant +1 gold when stationed in a settlement you own. This was hilarious because Medjays, of course, cost no gold. So you just basically are turning this military unit into a walking commercial zone and just plomping it down on your terrain. I then found a way to overflow the production by destroying a like independent tribe and like filling up my construction queue with a bunch of Medjays that all completed in 0 turns, and that just put them all on one tile. So I had like 5 Medjays on my capital, each was giving me 1 gold. It was lovely, a very wonderful early game boost. So yeah, that's I think the first exploit I performed in my 3 hours playing the game, which was good fun. As you talked about, it was quite entertaining having the QA team literally standing behind me, watching me as I play. And then I'd have like some guy walk up to me and be like, "Oh, have you done this?" And I'd be like, "I just did this, this, and this." And then he'd like nod his head and go, "Very well." And they'd walk off and like have a conversation with a colleague. I felt like I was in some kind of CIA
developers.
lab.
Multiple developers coming over to me and be like, Spiff has already broken the game.
It's a code blue. It's like, we've got to be careful.
It's a code Spiff. He's broken it.
It was, I will give one shout out to, oh my goodness, I've forgotten his name. The person who runs the like streams for Civ.
Ryan?
Yes, I think so. Yes. Basically, at the lunch, they only had coffee or like lemonade, and I was like, "Oh, what a shame! There's no tea." As I'm just like walking around, and he overhears me. He's like, "Oh, yeah, there isn't any tea. Well, you know what? I think I've got some hidden away in the office. Give me a few minutes." And then like a few minutes later, he just appears with a cup of tea, and that was wonderful. It was a really good cup of tea as well.
Shout out to Brian from Civ's production team. He's a legend.
Absolute legend. Truly a wonderful person to chat to. So yeah.
Like the visual production team, or is it like the Firaxis broadcasting team? Media team? I'm not sure.
You know when we did the little Civ 6 mini game with like Dautos and Ursa?
He was running the stream?
Yes, he was running the stream.
I don't actually know what his role is. It's either like video producer or media producer, something in that direction. Yeah. I've been in his office. He's pretty cool. Pretty cool guy.
He
who doesn't afraid of anything.
Very, very cool guy indeed. So yeah, it's a video game that we have played, and that was the first little cheeky little exploit that I've run into. Did you run into any silly little features or yeah?
I didn't really run into many bugs. I did run into a memory leak, which I think you also ran into.
Yes, except we took two different approaches to the memory leak.
What was your approach?
So, as the session kind of went on, evidently there was kind of like a bug with the game in like a memory leak whereby the game slows down as it's running out of memory because something is it's complicated computer stuff. I sensed that it was probably going to be a memory leak, so I just dropped down a quick save and a quick load because my game was basically running like treacle. And
Yep.
I was like, oh, if it's not this is going to be really bad for optimization. I did it, and the game just went straight back to smooth as butter, like 144 FPS. Like all of the UI interactions were immediate, and I was like, oh wow, this is great. And then yeah, after talking to you, you did not do that.
I suffered. I was trying to see how far I could. There's a reason they didn't let us record our footage. There was because I started doing like really weird stuff, like, and this is going to kind of, we'll have to talk about like the commander mechanic, but I kept trying to use the reinforcement mechanic because I was trying to replicate what you did to stack infinite Medjays on a tile. And so I had a commander that I was sending reinforcements to. And by the time I sent like the 7 reinforcements to the commander, the game like started like being like, oh God, what are you doing? Like it got really bad. I did eventually do a save and reload, and that fixed everything. So I think it probably has a memory leak somewhere that needs to be like chased down.
But that kind of stuff is pretty simple. I think we should actually talk about commanders because this is going to be. I think this is something that's getting kind of like
Missed.
It's getting missed because basically everyone is talking about the ages, right? Which is fine. We'll get onto that eventually. However, the combat I think is probably the most interesting change from like a raw gameplay loop perspective, because Civ gameplay is very much placing cities, moving units around. And the fact that we've had a major departure, because Civ 4 was very much just big doom stack that you walk around, and I kind of love that, but I can understand why people think it's dumb. Whereas
it's like stompy, it's like building a giant stompy mech out of meat. Right?
It really is. It really is. And then, Civ 5 is you have your independent units and they each take up a square. Civ, that's Civ 5. And then Civ 6 was kind of like a mix of that. It was mostly Civ 5, but you maybe would have, say, like a battering ram, which could have like a melee infantry beneath it. So there was some kind of like improvement on that strategy, I would say, in terms of like Civ 6 combat.
I agree. I don't feel like they really plumbed the depths of that system, because like you could have attached like an anti-tank cannon to a unit, which gave an anti-cavalry damage. But like really, all they did was like, oh, this unit makes you heal faster. This unit gives you +1 movement, and +1 protect you against air attacks. I don't think they really like delved into the potential of that system. But what they've done for Civ 7 is actually really interesting, because your units no longer level up. And that is the biggest change. Your units just do not level up. Yeah,
instead you basically have there is some kind of unit level up, but it's not leveling.
It's like a tech thing, right?
Yeah, it's more like, let's say the Medjay is the Egyptian unique unit. At the start of the era, it's basically on par with a warrior. And then as the warriors, say, get phased out for spearmen, the Medjay also improves to the level of a spearman. It's so that your unique unit isn't useless, basically, which is really nice to see. So there is a progression of unit strength, even if it is the same unit, but all of the experience is now funneled into army commanders.
Correct. And the interesting thing about the upgrading of units thing is every single change that they've made to Civilization 7, based on what they've said and based on the vibe of the change, it feels like what they're trying to do is address a direct piece of feedback from players, right? People would say like, oh, by the time you get your unique unit, it's obsolete. Well, now you can upgrade your unique unit to be the strength of the next unit, right? So it goes from being like 10 strength to 15 to 20, whatever arbitrary numbers they are. It does cost a bit of money to upgrade them, but you can keep them relevant for an entire age, which is super interesting.
Yeah, it means the strategy around them isn't lost, because like the Medjay is, +3 combat strength in your own territory. It's nice that it still is that melee unit with +3 combat strength as the age goes on. Your strategy with that unit doesn't change. You don't just throw it in the bin. It's needed if you're defending. It's not really needed if you're attacking, which is
exactly.
It's what you want.
But the experience getting funneled to the commander because is really interesting because the game I immediately think of is actually like Total War, particularly like the second Total War Rome 2. Remember you had like your armies would have like these level ups and there was like these promotion trees and upgrades and stuff. And that's kind of how your great generals work now. They're almost like hero units that can't attack, but they buff all the units around them.
Yeah, 100%. This is basically exactly what they are. So I've got a picture of it up. Basically, there's 5 trees at the moment. There's like Bastion, which is focusing on defensive kind of abilities and bonuses. Assault, which is very much all about flanking or doing extra damage. Logistics, which is all about the physical movement controls that a commander has, which we'll get to because they're really useful. Maneuver is very even more flanking focused and kind of like more I'd say it's more ambushy kind of play style. And then leadership is this commander is going to sit in my own territories and provide like buffs potentially. And then at the bottom there's like commendation points. There's 5 of them. Each of them is kind of like an end game giga advantage that you're like focusing someone down to. I think one of them is like +1 range to range units or something like that, which is pretty nice.
The commendation bonuses, if I remember correctly, were like super strong. But a lot of the army commander abilities interacted really interesting with like the base army commander mechanics. Like the first assault ability is your commanders can like scoop units up to transport them, so you don't have to like, I have to command these 6 units individually to walk to this place. The commander could just be like, I store 6 units inside me like an APC, I walk them to the front line, and at the press of a button they all deploy around me. And the first assault ability is when a unit deploys from a commander, it can still attack, which is insane because if you can get a commander to flank an enemy, it's like, blup, I just dropped 6 horsemen behind your lines who are all now attacking. It's like so much potential for really interesting interaction between players. And then another, like the defensive ability was like +5 defense when fortified or whatever. So there was like really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, the commander kind of has like a sphere of influence where his modifiers are taking effect and where he can also like pull units, like suction them up into his body from. And I would say that commanders are kind of like, they are kind of like your heroes almost, in that you want to keep them alive and equally you want to kill your enemies ones. In the same way that if you saw a catapult heading to your city in Civ 5, that's what you're going to target. This is what you're going to target. Logistically, they're super useful because it means if you're waging war on someone, you're not spending like 40 clicks to move 10 units 4 tiles. Instead, it's just like one big suction everything up, move it across, dump it off, there we go. Which makes the mid game way less tedious, way less tedious.
And big wars, because like big wars in Civ 5, right? You might have like 5 units leveling up every turn, and you have to individually and like and this promotion, if I apply it, heals the unit, and you have to like click really quickly, and you were like, there was like a battle, right, to click all the promotions. Now it's like your commander gets all the experience. You only have to level up the commander. If the commander dies, like I think after a few turns, he respawns at a nearby city. So you don't kill them permanently. They just get taken out of the fight. They can't gather experience. My favorite part, of the commander is the ability to call for reinforcements. What he can do is you press a button and then you can go find a unit in your empire and you click that unit. The unit disappears. The game calculates the walking distance to the commander and then gives the unit a movement speed boost. And so, like, let's say in previous games, you would have had to click him and move him and click him and move him like 10 times. Now, you summon him, and 8 turns later, he'll appear by the commander. It is so nice. It is so nice.
I describe it as like when you're playing Hearts of Iron 4 and you just, or like EU4 and you just force march your units. You're just like, hey, you can't get involved in combat. You're just purely getting from point A to point B so you can be relevant. And that is super, super, super useful. Like, it's such an improvement over the tedium of basic unit movement that we currently have. Yeah, it's cool. It's very cool.
Now, someone said, reinforcements just seems to make supply lines and infrastructure pointless. If you kill the general, the unit gets sent back to where it started. And if there's no room for the unit gets sent back to where it started. And the amount of time it takes for the unit to reinforce is based on your infrastructure. So if you have a railroad between your commander and where the unit was, it will like travel invisibly faster. So infrastructure still matters.
Yeah, although...
And how many times were you like surrounding someone's supply line anyway in Civ? Like,
it basically never happened. It basically never happened. The main thing to talk about supply lines is that builders are gone.
Yes.
Rest in peace. Insert in the arms of the angel music. Builders are dead. Long
Builders are
live
gone.
not builders. Which is, it's kind of this crazy thing because we're so used to civilization being a case of plopping down cities and then having builders improve all the tiles. And then Civilization 6 was like, okay, well, what if the builders were like not really that important, and instead it's all about, you know, districts, which are destroying the land that previously builders would have used, as well as wanders taking up that spot. And instead you're playing Tetris with districts, which
Yes.
absolutely loads of people truly hated, which it's part of that entertaining, funny meme of everyone absolutely hating the previous civilization.
Yes.
Which
Hold
I
on,
saw
let me provide you with the image.
I have it because you put it on your Twitter and I've seen it on Reddit all the time. But basically, the story is...
So give us a little zoom in on that so we can see it better.
Okay, this is a tale as old as time, ladies and gentlemen. You see, in the before times, we had this game called Civilization 4, which before its release, we were saying, oh, disappointing, it's watered down, hardly anything that can top the last entry of Civilization 3. It's just fancy graphics, but that can't substitute the gameplay. And then, of course, after Civ 4 released, wow, it's one of my favorites. I've spent countless hours with it. Looks gorgeous, and the DLC made it so much better. Best Civ game so far. Then Civ 5 comes out. It's disappointing. It's just a watered down, broken version. Hardly anything that can top the last entry. It's just fancy graphics, yada, yada, yada. And then, oh my God, Civ 5's my favorite game of all time. It's so good. And then Civilization 6 comes out. Oh my God, it's terrible. It's got districts. It's not Civilization 5 anymore. There's not even strategy. It's baby game for Tetris players. And then it releases and turns like, oh, it's one of my favorite. All of the DLCs made it so much better. Blah, 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 blah. This is the cycle we're currently in, right? Okay? Until you play the game or experience the game or you see more footage of the game, do not fear. Civilization is a series that has lasted so long because it changes. And it changes in a way that doesn't kill the predecessor. If we take a look at CSGO and CS2, Counter-Strike 2 I hate because CSGO is now gone and I can't play it. When Civilization comes out, if I really don't enjoy it, I can just play Civilization 2. Or I can play
Correct.
Civilization Beyond Earth. It's completely fine. The developers aren't holding a gun to your head and saying, if you don't play Civilization 7, we're going to be killing Civilization 5. No, that game is still there. If all you do is play Civ 6 multiplayer lobbies, you can do that. And then maybe play Civ 7 a little bit, and maybe you like it, maybe you don't. That's fine. Not every game should be identical to the last game you played. It's fun
Correct.
to innovate. Yes.
The only place there where I might slightly dissent is that
Yes.
if you change the game so much that it doesn't even feel like the previous games, then you might have gone somewhere wrong. But I am also reminded of the Dota 2 Ice Frog comic, where it's like, I actually sent it to you in DMs, right? But it's a little bit vulgar. But it's basically like, Ice Frog releases a patch for Dota 2, right? And it was like, oh, new patch, let me try this. And they're like, what the hell is this? This is bullshit, I hate it, I'm never playing this game again. And then 4 panels later, they're gobbling down the patch because they are addicted, right?
Yeah.
There are going to be people whining and crying about Civilization 7. I'm going to make a statement right now, and I want you to take it to the bank. Civilization 7 is going to be the most controversial Civilization game ever released because there is going to be so many people hating upon it and angry about it and upset about it because the Civilization community is just so big now and there's so many varying opinions. There's no actual real controversy. It's just going to be people mad about the game, which is good in a way because people are passionate, but it's bad in a way because people are misdirected in their passion, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's like, this is a video game. It's okay to be passionate, but no one has killed your dog. Like, your pet is still there. You can still pet him. He's great.
Yeah. Like Civ 6 still exists. It's not like the Warcraft 3 Reforged
Oh
or
my God.
fucking deleting the previous version of the game. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
good God.
There will only be this version. Now, who knows? Maybe 2K will turn around and be like, no, you will only be playing Civ 7. They still
There
have
will
time.
only be one Civ from now until the end of time.
This does bring me to like my two major concerns with the game, because my concerns are slightly different to a lot of people. A lot of people are like panicking about the ages, but we can talk about that later. The main thing for me comes from it not feeling like a Civ game purely because of pacing for me. This game does not follow, in my opinion, the glorious early game that I love about Civilization, which is that, hey, you kind of like land in a fun little environment with a settler unit. You have one decision, which is, where do I settle my city? You place down your city. Then you have two decisions. What do I produce? What do I research? That's all you have to do. You have very few decisions. And then as the turns go on, you get more and more decisions. It's like, oh, I have a unit now. Where do I move my unit? Oh, I'm learning about culture. I'm learning about like tourism. I'm learning about wonders. All of these things are gently drip fed to you. And it's one of the things that makes Civilization super, super accessible. Like you can hand Civ 6 to basically anyone and they can have fun with it. This game is more intense. And now for someone like me who loves strategy games, that's not a problem. I can play it completely fine, very easily. In fact, I just curb stomped the game. The problem was it felt inaccessible to non-strategy nerds because there's like way more decision making you have to do. All the tooltips are way more intense. There's like way more text you have to read. A lot more actions you're expected to do in like the first few turns, which is to me quite intense, quite extreme. And yeah,
the on-ramp is can feel a little steep. It wasn't so bad for me just because I've played so many of the games. And so like my brain is like, oh, yes, I have played a bajillion 4X strategy games, like thousands of hours. So, but for somebody who maybe, because you play a much more diverse portfolio of games than me.
Yeah.
So your muscle memory might not be baked into this genre, right?
I think like I play a stupid amount of like strategy games, yes, but yeah, not as many just Civ-like games. I experience other games, and I think that's helped me appreciate the simplicity that exists in Civilization and just breaking it down to like, oh, here is food, here is production, and like. And then scaling up everything progressively. And it's about scaling up in a way that isn't Humankind scaling, because Humankind is like, as the game goes on,
oh god,
bullshit is thrown at you. Like, you reach an age and it's just like, oh, we're now going to be introducing the pollution mechanic. What does the pollution mechanic do? It just makes everything worse. Is the pollution mechanic fun? No, but we're just adding more mechanics that you now must engage with, and there are more buttons to press and more decisions to make. And suddenly your turn goes from being like, oh, I've got some nice, fun, simple choices that make me feel like I'm in control, to I feel like this is mind-numbing tedium, which is not fun at all. And it's about working out the correct pace. Now, I spoke to Ed Beach, and he said that basically all of the pace of Civ 6 was just him, and that for this game they actually have like multiple people working on the pacing of the game. And this was the main thing I said to him, was like, the pacing is off. It feels way too intense, way too quick. Like I would hand this game to someone and they'd be like overwhelmed very quickly. Which I'm sure to all of the Giga Chad gamers in the chat, they're completely fine. And being like, lol, this is skill issue. But I'm not thinking about us, sweaty gamers. I'm thinking about like the actual 90% of the player base of this game. The kind of people who are playing on a Nintendo Switch or a Steam Deck in their spare time, just like chilling. Like not having to, they have it on a second monitor and they're working and then they'll go back and do a turn. Like imagine playing this game on a second monitor and it's Humankind and you have like 5,000 decisions to make. And you leave a save, like go away from your computer for a couple hours, go back and it's just like, oh God, where was I? Civ games are great because you come back and you're like, oh, I don't remember where I was, but it's so easy for me to just sink into it and go. Because
I have like 8 decisions I can make, and like, you know, they can be broken up into category of like, do I make a city? Do I make a builder? Or like, do I make a city? Do I make a worker? Or do I make a military unit? Like those were like most of your decisions. Now the decisions, so I kind of agree here. Like there was this like weird, complex game of building placement, like on the map that is fundamentally cool, but like was also one of the things I really didn't like about Humankind is like you click, it's like, okay, I want to build a maker's quarter. And then like the map changes and then you see 47 different numbers and it's like, here's +1, here's +2, here's +6. And the game is like, build it here, +7, +7, build it here. And it's like, Civ 7 has a very similar vibe when you're placing buildings and stuff like that. One of the things I really liked about Civ 6 is when I was placing, I only ever had to place districts once. You know what I mean? Like I built one campus district. There was 5 mountains over here. That's where I'm putting my campus district. Or there's a reef there. There's this. There's that. There's whatever. You know, and it was very straightforward. Whereas Civ 7 felt a little bit more overwhelming because, it has the potential to force you to think multiple chains of decisions down the line, which isn't necessarily bad. But what it made me feel like multiple times whenever I discovered a new mechanic, I was like, oh, I wish I could go back and move that building.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of like working out the weight of a decision in this game. I think is a fair bit harder because it's not as simple as like, I don't know, when you're building a granary in Civ 6, you know exactly what you're doing. In this game, when you build a granary, it's like, oh, this is a granary. It will persist through the age and provide you with modifiers. And it's like, what? There's ages? And if this persists through the age, is the next thing I'm going to be building? And is that going to persist through the age? Like, what's going to happen? Suddenly there's like added layers of decision making, which from a strategic level is awesome. Because the idea that I could build a Roman baths, and then in the next age, the Roman Empire has collapsed, and now I'm playing as like the Normans, and we've just landed in, well, we're in England basically, and there's Roman baths everywhere, and it's like, oh, we should do something with these. These are kind of cool. We got Roman walls everywhere. That's awesome. That gives you modifiers and bonuses, and that's super cool from like a long-term strategy game. That's the kind of thing you sink your teeth into, and it's wonderful. The problem is making it not Humankind, where it's changing so rapidly that these decisions feel nonsensical, meaningless, and like stacking out of control. Which I really appreciate the fact they only did 3 ages, because those ages actually felt substantial, whereas in like Millennia and Humankind, you can just blitz an age in like 5 turns. And it's like, oh, I'm playing as the Egyptians. Now I'm the Huns. Now I'm the Mongols. Now I'm England. It's like, there's no agency. You don't feel connected to the civs at all. The fact...
Yeah, you feel like an anamorph, like going from being like a German peasant to Genghis Khan back to being a German peasant again. And it's just like, what am I anymore?
And the main weakness Humankind had is there was no personality, because you're not playing as an actual person. You're playing as like this avatar. And there's no agency to that avatar. I mean, we hate it. We're both avatars in that game. We're both voiced characters in that fucking game.
I don't like the avatar system.
I don't either, because the idea of changing a civilization through history makes a load of sense, and it can be really, really fun. And
viewer Just a New Scrub has a question. Potato Whiskey, what is the historical context of Egypt becoming Songhai? Well, you see, in 1842, I banged your mom in Mali, and so that's why they become Songhai. Why are you asking me stupid questions, okay? Ask the developers, loser.
I think the historical context of civilization is kind of dumb. It's like they take ideas from history and they try and make them fun and engaging in a mechanic, and that's basically what they do. So in this case, Ed Beach took a look at the fact that civilizations rise and fall. He saw that tweet from Elon and he was like, whoa, this is so deep. I'm 14 and this is deep. Let us make a mechanic about this. And the way he explained the mechanic in the pitch, I was like, this could be the worst thing possible. This is the biggest thing I have been dreading. This is the one thing I didn't want to have happen. And then I played it and I was like, okay, this is actually, I can have fun with this. This is fun. This could be something pretty cool. I can see what the vision is. Maybe with some like polish and stuff. This could be the best execution of the idea of rise and fall, and like not always like winning in a game, like having paced challenges, which is really, really fun. I'm very much looking forward to that kind of thing.
The real answer to that question, okay, and not the meme answer is, okay, that anybody with a string of brain cells could get together is the historical reason that Egypt turns into Songhai. The reason that that's the historical path is because that they were the geographically closest countries on the map for the selection of civilizations that are in the game at launch, right? Like that's literally the reason is they have a limited set of civilizations that they can put in the game at any one time, and they have to try to map something that, while is crazy, isn't like Egypt becoming the Kree in the exploration age. You know what I mean? Like Egypt is here, Songhai is here, so it's like, okay, like they're kind of close. They're on the same continent. You know what I mean? Like, and already there's other, like, it's literally just because they don't have enough things probably to link everything together in a really neat and perfect way.
Yeah, it's
that's
not EU4.
like the whole reason.
Yeah, I think you're very spot on with that, and I think the way they're trying to design it, in the very least, makes sense. I think the names of the civilizations are almost not important. Think of civilization now as you are a historical character, which is like picking a character in Slay the Spire, and then as you are going along, you are building this deck. Like Civ 7, imagine it as a roguelike. You are building this deck, and you've built your deck in the first floor in a way that specializes in resource accumulation, and you've got a bunch of horses. And then in the second floor, you get the opportunity, because the game's gone, oh, this person's got a lot of horses. It probably makes sense for them to be quite nomadic and make use of these horses. Like, if you are a historical civilization and you're standing on a massive pile of horses in perfect horse terrain, your civilization will naturally probably pivot towards that kind of thing. And so to have a historical option, it's got the name Mongolia on it, and sure, you're probably not near Mongolia, but fine. It doesn't matter. Like, if you remove the name from it, the historical like accuracy makes sense. You are geographically near mountains, so it makes sense for your civilization to develop in a way that makes use of the mountains. You kind of make do with what you have around you.
Look, here's the thing. It's totally fine to be like, I think that is stupid, but don't pretend you don't understand why they made the decision, right? Like, it's like they've done it. Like, the idea is you have a lot of horses, you become a nomadic tribe, and the quintessential nomadic tribe in Age 2 is Mongolia, right? Like, that's the whole pipeline. And once you understand that, you can say, like, I think that's dumb. And that's fine. You can not like that. I don't really like it that much. But it really annoys me when people are like, can you tell me the historical justification? And I'm like,
there isn't one, I'm afraid. There
isn't one. Because it's a stupid question. It's obvious.
It's a fun idea someone had. And
it's a gameplay justification, right?
Yeah.
You can't put infinite civs in the game.
No, you can't. And
you can think that is dumb, and that's fine.
Equally, I don't think like custom civs are a good idea either. I think them having a historical name makes sense. Like, there's a reason why, I don't know, Hoi 4 does better than Stellaris. It's because the things have names and we have connotations. Like, when I am playing England in EU4, immediately you're thinking, oh, ruling the waves, something to do with money and industrialization and colonizing. Whereas in Stellaris, it's like, oh, it's the Gwarbler Empire, and it's like, well, as a viewer or someone, you don't have any connotations to that. Whereas the fact that Civ is like, oh, yes, they were Egypt, which immediately you think, oh, so they did some building, and then they're Mongolia, so it's like, oh, Mongols, what did they do? Oh, okay, it's going to be horse stuff. It's going to be violent horse stuff. And so mentally, your brain has these preconceived notions, which make it much easier to look at someone else's build and path in the game and go, I understand this. Because imagine rocking up to, I don't know, the New World, and you're facing down the Glorguflarp Empire, and it says, oh, in a previous generation, they were the Spacenoids, and it's like, oh, okay, I don't understand what this means. And sure, it's got these lists of modifiers, but the modifiers don't mean anything to me. I'd much rather have a preconceived expectation or notion that I can fill in the blanks with.
The civilization names are the branding of your gameplay, right? If you're Mongolia, you're going to play like Mongolia. It doesn't mean you are, like, historically a perfect representation of what was before and after Mongolia. It means that your current gameplay brand is horse violence.
Yes. Yeah, that's your thing. You are horse violence man. And yes, you might be playing as Augustus, as horse violence man, but you've got to remember that, think of the leader you're picking as your starting deck, or your starting character in Slay the Spire. This is a set of modifiers that you want in the game with you. It's not you picking a civilization, it is you picking a base, and then as the game goes on, you adapting the strategy as it goes on. I do want
to point out that people are crying about historical accuracy in a game where Gandhi And Abraham Lincoln can have a war with chariots.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Why
this is
can't
what
they?
Civ is.
Why can't they? I think they should. We should make that. Yeah, that's Civ is never. Civ is all about testing your ability to run humans through like civilizational history and have fun with it. And
Yes.
that is at the core of Civilization. And I had fun doing that process, which is for me the most important thing. Whether I would have,
But it is important to note that we actually haven't done the age transition.
No.
We haven't done the transition from one Civ to another. We
it was
only got to play
purely-
one age.
It was purely alluded to with things like
Yes.
modifiers and it saying like, oh, in the next stage, you'll be getting like a plus 10% unit production modifier because you were so warlike in the first one, which is kind of fun. And as the age goes on and you complete like various objectives or do certain actions, your like actual character leader, like your Cleopatra or like your Augustus, is generating attribute points, which you can then be investing down this perk tree, which I think is like science-y, expansion-y, military, money-making, and like diplomatic and cultural. And these are basically like 6 trees with a bunch of different paths on them that you can sync points into, and the various and that will stick with you as the ages go on, which is quite fun. And
I think it's really cool.
yeah, I like that. It actually made you feel a little bit more connected to your characters, and that the actions you were doing were modifying your character as opposed to just I am doing war because for the sake of war. It's like, oh, I'm doing war and I've been rewarded for doing war, rather than I'm
Yes.
Gandhi and I'm doing war because it's the right strategic move. Like if Gandhi is doing war and he's doing war well, he should be rewarded for doing war well. It makes sense. He's becoming more warlike in your game. You are playing him and he is being warlike. So yeah, I enjoyed that aspect.
I really enjoyed that aspect because one of my favorite parts of Civ 5 is the social policy tree. I love that whole give me a talent tree, bro. And like you have 4 talent trees and 4 different ways to generate talents for your talent trees. What I really want to see is actually like unique talents for like if you're playing Egypt, I think it would be really cool if Egypt had like unique economic talents and unique war talents and like but the talent tree stuff is like has a lot of potential. It could be really cool. It could also be really gamey and crap. But from someone who loves like the social policy stuff, I am very interested in this and I want to see it. Oh wow, there's actually a bunch of leader attributes. More than I thought. There's actually 6 leader attributes.
Yeah, there's culture, diplomatic, economic, expansionist, militaristic, and scientific. This one up on screen is the cultural tree. The first one that's selected, you can see it's +1 culture per age on the palace and city halls. And then as it goes on down, it's like +10% construction towards wonders or +25% culture towards studying civic masteries. So it's pretty fun, but I do actually really like your idea, Potato, of having an additional like attribute tree just for like the civilization you chose. Like if you're playing Augustus and you chose Egypt, there's like Egyptian focused attributes that you hold on as a legacy. I think that sounds quite fun. I like that. We should send them an email.
I would love for there to be an extra tree on the end there that just said cultural and like you could level up Egypt, like you get wild whatever, you know, like what if Egypt, I don't know, like because they have unique districts, right? When you put 2 of
plus
their unique
1%
buildings,
builder charge. So
how do you feel about builders being gone?
I think this is a striking decision that will make the early game feel weird and the mid game feel good, because builders, generally speaking, existed for a while and are really fun, and then for 90% of Civ gamers, you like in Civ 5 you just hit the automate button, like you just leave it be. And that's how 99% of people are playing Civilization. They move the builder around, they build their first farm, and then they just hit automate and job done. So the fact that builders are removed, to me, is not a negative. It's merely a change, and it's one that I felt would impact the game more than it actually feels like it has. I can't say that I felt like I was missing them at all. Yeah.
Well, personally, I understand what they're trying to do, because managing builders in the late game is ass. Right?
It's the worst.
It's horrible.
Like
it's
you
you
conquer
have
a
40
new
cities and
Yeah, you conquer a new town, and it's like, oh, all of this stuff is on fire, and you must repair it. Or there's nuclear fallout, and you must repair it. I conquered cities in this game, and there's damaged districts because I pillaged them, and all I have to do is press like one button, and it's going to be repaired in like a turn's time or whatever. Like that was so much easier, so much easier, and
But
yeah,
yes,
it felt good.
Here's the thing. I quite like the builder minigame. Like, you know, walking a guy out, chopping a tree, placing a farm, placing a mine. Like, that is like... And I kind of have an opinion here that, like, having little minigames that players can easily master is actually quite fun. Whereas now it kind of feels like, okay, your city grows, and then you come out, and you don't actually get to choose what is built on the tile. You just click a tile, and, like, the appropriate improvement is built on that tile. Which I didn't love. I don't love that I don't get to choose.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
But
I can
I understand
that.
why they're doing it. It's what they want to do is they want to take away false choice, right? Because like the obvious thing to do in Civ 6 was build a mine on every hill and never build a farm. Like,
Yeah.
So what they want to do now is get rid of false choices. So it's like, listen, there's only one choice you can make per tile. So now you have to choose which tile is more important. And that's, you know, so like, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's basically, yeah, you're correct. The meta game basically just became it's a mini game that you just repeated over and over again. Which I guess the first time you learn the builder mini game, it can be quite fun. But the more you know the builder mini game, you're just going through the motions. Then after a while, it reaches the point of tedium. Which, speaking of tedium and a ball ache in the late game, religion, it's gone.
Well, I mean, in the version that we played, there was only pantheons, right? There was literally no religious units. There was no forming of religion in the version that we played. So I don't know I don't know exactly how religion is going to work. I have been told that happiness is now replacing faith as a yield. I think that's what I was told. Don't take that as 100%. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you only get pantheons in the Antiquity Age, and the main religious gameplay seemingly might play out in the next age.
I think it playing out in the Age of Exploration makes sense, because that's when like organized religion would kind of make a little bit more sense there, and it actually having an impact on the gameplay, kind of like how Millennia handles it. Religion kind of comes in a little bit later, because the early game, it's basically just a pantheon in your cities, very similar pantheons to like Civ 6, I'd say as well. And the fact that religion in Civ 6 was basically just, here's a bunch of positive modifiers, and if you wanted to win a religion victory, you had to commit yourself to carpal tunnel syndrome, and that's now gone.
Yep. I'm kind of ambivalent about the removal of religion in the early game. It might come back. I gave a lot of feedback to developers.
Yeah, we don't know if it's not in the rest of the game, and we both expressed that we would like it in the rest of the game.
I think it would be a lot of fun to actually do, like, what I said to developers is, it would be really cool if we could like set the foundations of our religion in Age 1. Like, okay, we worship the sun god and we do this, and then like Age 2 is when like religious conflict really starts to take into, and like you can have schisms and splinters. Like, if they pull that off, chef's kiss, beautiful, wonderful, amazing. I'm on board. We just didn't get to see any of that though, so we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. It's super. It'll be, it's just a case of, it's a thing we don't know about, and the devs kind of wouldn't talk to us about it. So the fact that they wouldn't talk to us about it and didn't say, no, it's not there, alludes that there is something there. They're just not at a point where they're willing to talk about it or expose it to us. Speaking of like, I guess, things that are ready or not ready, an interesting point to note is that we played a vertical slice of the game, which was pretty self-contained and fun and enjoyable, but it's just like this key slice. It's not everything in the game, and it ran smooth. But this thing is launching on basically every single platform in the universe. It's releasing on Nintendo Switch in 2025 on the same launch day on the 11th of February. On the 11th of February, you can play this game on the last generation of Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and on PC.
And PlayStation 4.
And PlayStation 4 with crossplay. You can play a multiplayer game with someone on a bloody Nintendo Switch. I don't even
Yep.
understand it. Now, there was a caveat in the fact sheet that we had, which is that I think it's a case of on the Nintendo Switch, multiplayer is limited to less players. I don't think it can. The Nintendo Switch can't handle all the all I don't know, 12 players or whatever. I think it's 4 or something on the Switch. I don't know, but there is crossplay. How I imagine it will be a reduced version of Civ 7 if you're playing it with someone on a Switch. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they ported it to Samsung Smart Fridge. That would be kind of crazy. It is also going to be on PS5. It's just also on PS4, which is kind of crazy.
Personally, I said this to the producer, I think his name's Andrew or something. I said it to him, you guys are insane to try to do this. This was the launching on every platform was one of the big nails in the coffin for Humankind because it cost so many production nightmares for them. And I was like, you guys are insane. And he was like, oh, we can do it. We've got this.
Okay, look, I don't fucking believe them for a second. I apologize for swearing. City Skylines 2 was demolished because they had to spend months working to try and get a approved console release ready, because when you are releasing to consoles, you have to get a version of the game ready ahead of time that is sent off for review and testing so that it can be approved to then be manufactured and shipped for consoles. So the version we played basically needs to be ready in a few months' time so that they can have all the time necessary to jump through the hoops with console releases before they then they can then release on PC. And all of these versions have to be streamlined together because they have crossplay, which to me is mental because whilst there are issues with, say, the UI and the color, these things are easy to change. And if they weren't launching on every platform, I'd be like, this is definitely something that's going to be changed at the time of release. They have 6 months. They can do it. Whereas now, I'm like, oh God, they've got 6 months and they're releasing on every platform. To make a change to the UI on every platform and get it get it out there in time for approval for release, to me, seems impossible. That seems like they might do it, but I feel like their hands are kind of tied now with the fact that they are releasing on so many different platforms. Yeah,
100% agree. Dude, let's say Xbox, right? It takes 3 months to get approved for a patch on that, and it takes 4 months to get approved on PlayStation, and 3 months to get approved on Nintendo. Your submission deadlines for all these things are hitting different points. How do you even have the same build? How do you make sure everyone's on the same build? It's their plan is wild, and I'm if they can pull this off, it is the greatest video game production, performance in human history.
Yes.
If they don't pull it off, it was they were trying to do the impossible anyway. So I mean,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because they are if it does work, they will have the largest market cap of any strategy game ever. There is you will be able to own any console and play Civilization 7 basically, which is it's mad. Absolutely mad. And the fact that they intend to get it to run on a Switch, to me shows that the PC version should probably be able to run on a toaster. Realistically speaking, if they are having
100%,
if they are having to optimize this to run on a Switch or a PlayStation, it has to be able to run smooth. Someone says, will it release on Switch 2? We don't know. All we know is Nintendo Switch, and that is the current Nintendo Switch that is out. I would imagine it will probably also run on the Switch 2, but we don't know.
What I can say is I asked one of the developers about that, and he gave me a very neutral smile and did not answer. Did not answer, which to me, my suspicion, maybe they have dev kits, maybe they don't.
Yeah.
Maybe it might be on it. Maybe it might be post, Switch 2 launch, whatever. So there were definitely things they were not telling us, right? There are questions where Carl, okay, as much as we tried to get him drunk and get him to spill the beans, he was just he would every time we would ask him a question, he would lean back, put his hand to his mouth, and like calculate which NDA he's like having to step over. And
Which
then be
lawyer does he have to piss off today?
I can't talk about that until later. Like, or it would be like, I can talk about that, no problem. He like the what they can talk about and what they can't yet and what they're willing to talk about was very squirrely. So
yeah, it was quite funny. I was talking to Ed Beach, and he wasn't drinking, but if you have a conversation with him about like obscure English history, he gets talking very quickly. And I was like, oh, is there any, like, do you have a favorite civilization? And he's like, oh, well, I can't talk about it because we haven't announced it yet. But you know how I heavily alluded to like the people who took over London in like my speech earlier after the Romans left, and I was talking about who that could be. I just love the Normans. It's like, okay, thanks Ed. There we go. Normans confirmed.
Well, the Norman Empire was a big deal around that time, so I'd be really interested to. I would be surprised if the Normans weren't in the game, honestly, or at least a Norman leader, right?
Yeah, like playing Civ 5 with the Lek mod as the Normans, it just makes sense, and the fact that they're not in like a Civ game kind of makes sense. You're saying leaked? It's not leaked. He said this he had this conversation with me in public. My wife was next to me. She wasn't even NDA'd. She could have been talking about this for weeks now.
That's true.
Oh dear.
He didn't outright say that the Normans are in the game, but he heavily implied that he wants the Normans to be in the game.
He heavily implied that the Normans were his favorite faction that he would want to be put in the game. I'm pretty sure Anyway,
considering he's the lead designer, I'm going to say there's a good chance the Normans are in the game.
I'm going to say there's a good chance, considering 90% of the decisions in this game are his. But yeah, it was an interesting chat with him. He seems very passionate about board games. And
oh my god, he gave me a copy of his Here I Stand. It's a game we need to play it. It takes about 8 hours to play. But
8 hours for a board game?
Yeah, it's a game about the Protestant Reformation where you play as 5 different factions. You can play as England, France, or the HRE and Spain. Because a few different factions. It's like it's like playing EU4, but only the religious part.
Mm.
It's really cool.
That's my favorite part of EU4.
I really want to get a group together to play it. Here I Stand by Ed Beach. It's a really cool board game.
Prophet says you wouldn't survive with Gloomhaven. Yeah, but Gloomhaven is an exciting and engaging like RPG. It's not a game designed by 4X nerds. There's a difference.
One thing I've also heard Ed talk about is this idea of like layers,
like an onion,
like an onion. No, like if you think about Civ 6, the game had layers, right? You had like terrain, features, and then improvements, and then districts and all that stuff. And there was also like the regular unit layer, the civilian unit layer, the religious unit layer, and then the military unit layer, and then the air unit layer. So like he seems to be really interested in this idea of layering.
Yes.
Like the map. So there's like different layers sort of interacting, and you might have like religious layer doesn't interact with the military layer until it does, and then it's huge, right? So then you have the crusade, which gives you +10 combat strength, like in Civ 6. And so I'm interested to see what kind of like gameplay layering we see in Civilization 7.
I think
that's like one of his big things.
The one that he implied that he seemed most excited about to me was probably to do with like archaeology. I think there is some kind of feature that he was alluding to which heavily focuses on this idea that you were maybe playing as the Romans and you built all of these cities, and maybe you went to war with someone and there's a big war or whatever over these like cities or whatever, and then anyway your civilizations failed and then you did the exploration age, and then like you're discovering maybe the lost aspects of raised cities or whatever maybe down the line, like, which to me I conceive like this super cool mechanic whereby literally 100 turns later, or 200 or 300 turns later, you are dealing with the scars that have been left on the world by your actions and other players, which I think is quite fun.
I think that's a really cool idea. I think that's always been kind of a thing in Civ. Like, you know, they would try to put archaeological sites where units had fights in like the ancient era, but I like that they're moving or potentially moving more that way, like you're uncovering ancient battles inside, your bathhouse or whatever.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Sorry, I'm
I'm
just
trying to
doing
think
I'm just doing a poll where I'm asking if Civ 7 is Shrek. If Civ 7 is Civ Shrek. Oh
What-
god, my brain.
One thing I'm wondering about is like the potential for expansions, right? Like and the and like what features were in the game right now that like really kind of appealed to us. I really like the art style.
Art style is really good. The like idea they had for diplomacy I thought was interesting.
Right.
I
We
would
should talk about that.
I would describe it as, imagine the diplomatic world stage is the Roman Senate, and you can literally be a Roman senator with infinite gravitas and like no actual substance. Like you don't have a military, but you're just this incredibly influential orator who everyone kind of listens to, and as a result you can kind of like shit talk and slam dunk everyone, and almost like into like web weave around everything with your like your influence, which that's kind of what's getting alluded to by the diplomatic mechanics, which is very, very interesting to me. Yes. How about you?
Sorry, I got a very weird tweet
That's
that
okay.
I was distracted by. What were you saying?
Do you want to share this tweet with the class, Mr. Potato?
Sure thing. It says, Internet Hall of Fame, ex-Nashville cop Sean Herman was arrested for appearing in an OnlyFans video on duty. And I was like, excuse me? What the hell?
Oh, God.
I should close Twitter. Sorry, what were you talking about?
I was talking about diplomacy, Potato, which is this thing here.
Right.
Yes, it introduces a new currency. Woo!
Ooh, it's going to be used for the World Congress. Boo.
Boo! We hate the World Congress.
We don't actually know that, by the way. So I'll give you my hot take. My quick hot take on diplomacy is I think it's good that they got rid of the diplomacy swap meet where you just like open up a thing. It's like, I will have gold for your tomato, sir. Or
4 horses
14...
for 2 coal.
Yeah, like they got rid of that weird thing. And instead it's all about agreements and diplomacy. So like you can't just open board, like you can't just talk to someone and be like, I would like to buy your oranges. Instead you say, would you like a trade agreement? And then your trade routes will be interest, or like we can open our markets, or we can have a cultural exchange. And then when you send that to someone, like that'll cost you 60 diplomacy mana, right? And then they can also spend 60 diplomacy mana to like double the effect for both of you, or they can spend 60 diplomacy mana to block it from happening, or they can spend 30 to make it like to just, or they can spend 0 to just accept it and let it happen. There's like this interesting system where they can like, if you're like, oh, cultural exchange, I'll get 2 culture, you'll get 1, and he can be like 60 mana, no, you don't get any, or he can be like, fine, you get 2, I get 1. It's like it's really interesting.
Or you spend like you spend the extra mana and it's like, oh, you get 5 culture and I get 5 culture, so everyone benefits. Like it is a really cool mechanic in that diplomacy is no longer like you're a merchant in a market trying to barter supplies, and much more macro in that you are like, I don't know, this is an empire that is going to war with someone who you're friends with. You are trading resources with them. You close down your market because they're taking your horses and using it to train horsemen. And then they're able to use their like influence to be like, no, the market shall stay open. And they have to work extra hard in order to force that through. But in doing so, they are like, they're securing that. Like the diplomacy isn't just like this off-on valve, which I find to be quite fun. There's actual strategy to this, which is good.
I like it because it's so much less gamey than like opening a trade window with Gilgamesh and being like, hello, Gilgamesh, here's open borders, give me 3 gold. Or, hey, Gilgamesh, have a Greg sausage roll, 3 potatoes, and some dirty lint from my pocket. Can you go kill Gandhi for me? It's like, it's like so weird.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they're moving away from that sort of diplomacy system.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty funny. This is also like a mechanic, like a surprise war. So as you can see, like Augustus here is declaring a surprise war on Egypt, and in doing so, it doesn't cost him any influence to do. But because it's a surprise war, Cleopatra gains 150 influence. It's kind of
Yeah.
like if you just punched a kid in a school without any reason, that kid is immediately earning sympathy points from like the teachers. Imagine that, right?
Yes.
But if instead you had like an incredible casus belli and this child had been tormenting you and you walked up and you punched them in the face, the teachers are
It's
going
like
to
an
be like,
assembly.
it's
You get up
okay.
on the podium and you're like, you know what? Scott Pillman, that guy sucks, and I'm going to punch him in the mouth at lunch.
He is a bastard and his family is inbred. Yes, that's exactly
No,
how it works.
100%.
Yeah,
I-
it's quite fun.
I've never really liked diplomatic mana in games, but I'm willing. Look, here's the thing: I'm willing to give it a shot. Right? I'll give it a go. I'll give my opinion on it, and we'll see how it goes. It's basically just like it's just a currency, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you use to interact with city states and other players. City state? Have we talked about city states?
No. So imagine city states are instead like minor factions. They are
Like
no
barbarian
longer...
tribes from Civ 6.
Yes, or imagine, I would say they're even one step above that because they can have multiple settlements. I would
Yes,
describe them as
exactly.
like the barbarians in Civ 3, or is it Civ 3 or Civ 4 where the barbarians can take and hold cities? Because like that can happen. Like if you
Civ 4 they could. I remember seeing like red barbarian cities in Civ
Yeah,
4. Although
that
that
was-
might have been just in the Caveman to Cosmos mod, which nobody should ever play because it's going to your life.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, whereby they are effectively these other people on the map, and you can influence and interact with them. You can just punch them a bunch and like raid their lands and steal their stuff, or you can almost like develop them, and as you grow them up, and you kind of become
Yes.
symbiotic, and you almost kind of naturally become like a suzerain of them, almost like how it worked in antiquity, whereby you had these large city-states that were kind of like, I don't know, like take Carthage, for example. Carthage was this huge empire, but for a lot of its history, it didn't actually control land. It more just had a lot of land where the people recognized the authority of Carthage and gave tribute to Carthage almost. And in return, they kind of expected Carthage to look after them and protect them in times of need. That's kind of how it works, I would say.
They were the big boy on the block, and that's actually
Yeah.
something the thing I really love about this system is, right, it's very, very simple. You find an independent people and you're like, I'm going to kill you or I'm going to befriend you, right? Simple binary choice, which is fine. But if you go the befriend me route, when you give them enough, when you support them enough, they actually evolve up from being an independent people into a city state. And
Yeah.
in the transition from independent people to city state, you get to pick what their bonus is. And that is so
pretty good.
insane. Like I had like 7 choices or something, and one of them was like +2 science in your libraries. The other one was like build a unique district. The other one was, or build a unique building, sorry. And then the other one was like, +1 happiness per city. And it was just so cool. I really liked that I could be like, because the thing about Civ 6 is if you roll the map and you find, I'm trying to think of a like one of the OP city states for religion, right? You
Yeah.
you've won the game for religion.
Yeah, the
But
one
now
that gives
can
you
be
like triple faith from relics or whatever.
Yerevan,
Yeah.
that lets you choose whatever promote or all that stuff. Whereas now it's like, ooh, okay, I've got a bunch of choices for the city state that I want to level up, and then if you pick a bonus that you really care about, you're going to be fighting with people to keep suzerainty of that city state because you kind of feel ownership over it, right? Like I made these guys; these are my guys. And even cooler than that, you can use diplomatic capital to invest into them to grow them faster and get them to produce military units, and you can rent military units off them for diplomatic capital. So
Yeah.
I like what they've started to do with the independent people stuff and the city-state stuff. I love that they've combined the barbarians and city-state system together into a one system, because it means if I'm like, I don't want to fuck around with city-states this game, I just kill all the independent people around me, right?
Yeah.
It's like simple. But if I'm like, I'm a city-state guy, you get a treaty, you get some land, have some diplomacy, you get to be like friendly with it. I really like that.
Yeah, 100%. It is an upgrade to the city state experience, in my opinion, and I had
Yep.
fun with it. Yeah, it's very much more like these are your vassals, your tributaries, your little friends. and they are more than just this like this existing entity on the map that you kind of roll into almost like a natural wonder. It's no longer a natural wonder that you can fight and conquer, basically.
Yeah. I think city-states are one of the features that I would feel very confidently in saying. Like city-states and barbarians, it's one of those features where I feel confidently in stating that it is just a strict upgrade to how it was done in previous games. Like, it is strictly just better.
Yeah.
It's more interesting, it's more fun. A lot of other features, it could go either way, but this one I feel like it's just better. It's more fun, it's way better.
Yeah, there is someone asking in my chat if there are barbarian camps, and the answer is kind of. These independent peoples are effectively barbarians. They aren't civilized individuals, and you can grow them and civilize them, but some of them might start out aggressive to you, and consequently like hostile. Maybe they're hostile and they will actually attack you. Maybe they're hostile and they'll just attack you if you come close, or maybe they're just hostile in that they don't know how to approach you yet, and you can easily kind of like do diplomacy with them. The main thing that is the closest to barbarians as we know them is the end of age crisis that you run into, which I would basically say that this antiquity one is very much themed around the idea of the Bronze Age collapse, where you have these massive empires of like the Egyptians or like the other ones or whatever, and they just collapse to this unknown race of sea peoples. And the sea peoples are literally in this game. You will reach the end of this age where your empire has grown wide and decadent or whatever, and modifiers will start to kind of like play havoc on your like empire. Is kind of like how it happens. Crises begin, and it's kind of like this government slot. So the way it works is, the first one, you basically get.
We should probably talk about government slots before we talk about the crisis, actually, because I don't think we've covered that.
We haven't. Yes. Okay,
so
we'll do that.
The short version of the story is that the way governments worked in Civilization 6 are back, but they're different. I think it's you accumulate happiness, and as you accumulate happiness, you get these festival days. And when you get a festival day, you can plop in a new social policy. And you have social policies based on your technology and your civic choices, and based on your culture.
Yes.
And
which is very fun.
You can swap them in and out.
Yeah, you can swap them semi-regularly, and yeah, it happens from like the famous We Love the King days, although in my case, as I was playing effectively a dictator, it was We Love the Despot day, which was really, really fun. I love that kind of flavor. And yeah, you basically have like this, this is the early government here that you're seeing on screen. It's not very fancy.
Yeah, it says charismatic leader, +2 on the palace. Yeah, you basically get
+2 culture or +1 production and science, basically. This is like the opening decision. It's not very exciting. But then as it goes on, you're building kind of like a more streamlined deck that is fixing what you need. Like in my case, I was in a war, so I went for something that allowed me to produce units really quickly. And then as I got units, I then pivoted to something that would allow my units to do more damage, which was kind of like how I played it out, which is quite good because, governments change as needs arise. Yeah, it made sense.
Yeah, you can shift things in and out. I think whenever you earn a new policy, you can shift things in and out. But it definitely felt a lot less like in Civ 6, where you constantly want to be swapping things in and out to optimize. Here, it felt like, only like when big things happen did you need to like swap things out. You could just leave them in there. Yeah,
you could. You didn't have to be micromanaging this. It wasn't a case of like, if you don't get the +1 builder charge, the game will be over.
Yes, the builder charge thing is like, it was a heavy burden on Civ 6.
Yeah.
But that kind of loops us back into crises, because crisis is basically like a bad government. You have a slot that appears, and then you have to choose from these bad things, and you have to pick one.
Yes, which is really fun. Basically, yeah, you have these options that you can select, and there is a lot of balance issues with this. This is one of the funniest kind of things for me, because so many of these options were really kind of funny. For example, one of these negatives is barbarian mercenaries plus 100% gold to maintain military units. So basically doubles the upkeep of your armies. If you're playing as
Which, if you're playing
Egypt,
Egypt,
it doesn't mean anything because you have only Medjays. You are paying no military upkeep, so it's like, oh well, I'll just pick that one. Banditry is like -5 gold for each imported resource. Just don't import any resources. But these mechanics are really quite fun, and I think added a lot of flavor. I don't think they're very tuned in a balancing or fun way, but a few of them I really like Rebellious Commanders, which is -1 happiness in all cities for each commander rank. So basically, like, imagine the Roman Empire. Like, the Roman Empire had crises related to the fact that it had these really powerful commanders. And so it was kind of in this state of almost perpetual turmoil with these very popular commanders, and which I really enjoy. I love the like
the flavor.
Yeah, the flavor text that sits within this crisis. It feels way better than like other games which have done crises where the crisis is just, okay, we've done this age, we're in the next one. This actually feels like you are playing a civilization and the civilization has reached the limits that it can, and the cycle must now continue. There must be a retraction before they can be an expansion.
Yeah. I liked it. I didn't actually get to that part of the game because I played really slowly. I was reading every tooltip. I was exploring every option. I was moving my units really carefully. I was checking out the damage number. I was nerding out. I didn't get to the end of the age, but it looked really cool. Basically, I think you have to slot in 1 and then 2 and then 3 until you got to like 6 negative cards at a time or something, right?
It's that's basically how it works. And the way you kind of hit that point is by progressing through the age. As turns go on, or as people progress, the end of the age draws closer. So if everyone is kind of like blitzing the age really quickly, the age will come to an end faster. It's kind of on pace with civilization, as opposed to you've hit turn 10, that's the end of the age. Which is quite fun. It means if you're playing a slower game and your friends are playing a slower game, the age will just take longer.
And it also means if one player completely runs away with the age, he will speed it up, but he doesn't like get to just immediately go into the next age and run away with that one too, right? If everyone gets a little bit of time to catch up.
Yeah, and if anything, a lot of these decisions punish like snowballing. I wouldn't say they punish, they more like hold back.
They rein in. They rein it in a little.
Because if you are playing a ridiculous game of civilization, you can no longer just be like, I'm just going to conquer everything or settle 1,000 cities. I mean, you can do, but you will receive overextension that punishes that and brings it more into line. It's kind of like there's now a settlement cap. You can go above this cap. It just costs you happiness. Like, you can conquer every city on the map. It's just your empire will suffer the effects of overextension, which makes it a kind of like risk reward scenario, whereby in like Civilization, in Civilization 6 instead, you just settled as much as possible. In Civ 7, there is now a decision. It's like, do I exceed my cap, or should I exceed my cap in order to secure this strategic resource, or to like hold this choke point? Is it worth that overextension?
Yeah, I think I can't remember exactly how the mechanic worked, but it worked something like this, right? Yeah. Let's say you can settle 4 cities. There's no cost for your first 4. Then when you settle 5, the 5th one, you get -5 happiness in all 5 of your cities. And then if you settle the 6, it would be -10 happiness in all 6 of your cities. And if you settle the next one, it would be -15 happiness in all. And it like, I think the maximum penalty was 9 cities over the cap. Like, if you can survive with -45 happiness in every city, then you can conquer the world, right? I don't know how viable that is because it didn't really get a chance to explore that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I'm going to quickly nip to the loo, Potato, and I'm going to leave you in control of my stream for like 5 minutes. Explain a mechanic.
I'm assuming direct control.
Yes, you have it.
I'll talk a little bit more about the city cap stuff. So, I didn't really play around with the city cap stuff. One thing I noticed with the game is I didn't actually get access to settlers for a little while playing. So I don't really have a whole lot to report on that. I had access to a few choices early, and I don't know what unlocked settlers for me. It might have been like related to the tutorial or something going on there. It was kind of confusing as a person who's played a lot of Civ. But there's a city cap mechanic, and there are plenty of different ways to extend your city cap. One of them, I think, was in one of the age progress trees. I think it was military or something. You could get +1, or military, or maybe expansion development. You could get more city caps, but to let you have more. So the city cap is a soft cap. It's a very gentle cap. You're not locked into only 4 cities, and the number of cities you can have grows. But it's important to remember that there are 2 types of cities in this game. There are towns and there are cities, or settlements and cities. I don't know what the exact determination is, but in towns, right, like these tier 1 cities, you don't have a production queue, and all of the production in that city is turned into gold. However, you can pay money to build things in that city, whether it's units, whether it's stuff. You can grow that city and get new population and expand it. And in addition, you can also tell that city to stop growing and to feed your other cities, which is how you get a really big fat city that'll allow you to start placing down specialists. And what specialists do is they double the adjacency bonus of buildings that they have been placed on, and you can stack specialists infinitely on a tile, or maybe there's some sort of cap, right? So if you
It's
have
a
a +6
very
campus,
easy cap to like exceed balance on, though.
yeah, like if you have a +6 campus, right, or a library that's getting +6, you put a specialist on there. Now it's a +12. You put another specialist, it's a +18. Then it's a +24. And so that's kind of how you do your tall gameplay. You have this city over here dedicated to farming that's feeding this city, where I just stack all my specialists on a tile, and it was a really cool mechanic. I didn't get to play around with it too much. But it sounds really awesome.
The balance on it was ridiculously busted. We're talking like
Yes.
in a period of time where the AI was getting maybe like 50 science per turn, a player messing about with specialists could easily be at like 500. Like it was very, very funny.
Considering specialists themselves give you 2 science and 2 culture at the cost of 2 food.
Yes, yeah, it was quite funny. I very much I enjoyed messing about with that. That was a fun little exploit. Thanks for reminding me of that one.
Absolutely. I would love to spend more time. Like the thing is, 3 hours just isn't enough time.
But at the same time, I can understand why we were only allowed to play it for 3 hours, because we were like, it is a vertical slice of the game with only 4 civs and 4 leaders and only 1 age that wasn't polished. Like I've done preview events where it's felt like the game has overstayed its welcome. In that you are noticing more and more problems with it. So from a planning side of things, 3 hours is the perfect amount of time to play the game, feel like there's more that you missed and you want to experiment with, but you didn't have the opportunity to. Yeah. Speaking of one of the features, someone said weather. There is weather.
Yes.
There are storms and like volcanic eruptions and floods. All of these things I experienced. It's basically the same as Civ 6. They go through, they destroy some terrain, add some yields, and that's about it. Didn't particularly feel. Except
they are way prettier than in Civ 6.
That's true. They actually look like they fit the terrain. If there is a flood, it does not look like someone has just spunked all over the map. It actually looks like there's like this nice like environmental damage that is lasting, and it looks good. Very fun.
My rivers as Egypt like flooded multiple times, and like if I could have shown you guys that screenshot, it would have been me like soy pointing at like +10 culture on a river tile or whatever, you know. That would have been like 100,000 view video, like the most pogging start is Egypt ever.
Subscribe now. Speaking of starts, this is something they were really proud of, which is that the like starts are relatively balanced. In that desert is no longer useless. It used to be that, imagine if you spawned in only desert and you have no yields, right? It just sucks. Whereas now all of the base tiles have the same quantity of like total yields. It's just
they just
a
have
different focus. Yeah.
So I think tundra was culture.
Yes. Rainforest was science.
Or something. I think it was like was desert money? Or...
Desert was money, and I think
so
forests was like production or something like that. I can't remember.
I can't remember exactly how they said it worked, but the short version of it is you're never going to see a desert spawn and be like, wow, this is just strictly worse from a total number of yields point of view.
Yeah.
You might not consider those yields to be of equal value, but you will have like a flat desert tile is worth 4 yields, just like a flat grass tile is worth 4 yields or whatever, right? Whatever those numbers actually are,
Yeah.
they give you the same amount. They just might not be the same like type of yield.
Entertainingly, in the footage we have, they select the flat desert that they settle on, and it's only +1 production and 1 happiness, which is really funny.
Okay, maybe we're lying. I don't actually know.
Maybe every tile is 1 production and then 1 other thing. So it's like
maybe
if it's grassland, it's production and food. If it's desert, it's production and happiness. If it's trees, it's production and production. I don't know. Yeah, there must be some kind of balance of some kind. Yeah.
Well, part of this thing that I talked about, I actually told the developers this is like, you've just like almost killed my career, because my career is built off of like, oh my god, guys, I got the most insane start, or oh my god, this start is so mediocre, or like this is the worst start in human history, and now it's going to be like, hey guys, desert start.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think natural wonders might have a big impact. One of the devs was saying they rolled like a start which had like 2 or 3 natural wonders in range of their capital, which is pretty crazy. So maybe that's going to be in the game. Yeah, that could be funny.
I did see, I think I saw the redwood forest, and it had like 2 production, 2 culture, and 2 food on each tile, which is insane for Civ 7. Like for a base tile, they look juicy.
Yeah, we have 2 main questions coming from my chat. One is AI and one is trade routes. I feel like one of these is much simpler than the other. Should we start with trade routes?
Sure, let's go for trade routes.
Okay,
How did you like trade routes? Wait, if we talk about trade routes, we have to talk about resources first.
Oh, balls, you're right. Okay, this is more advanced than I thought. No, we should talk about this. So there are physical resources on the map. As you can see in this picture, there are sheep in the top right. There are like fish in the bottom right. And
Welsh people, stay calm.
Stay calm, you randy bastards. You can settle your city, and then you will say, do animal husbandry kind of things, and bam, sheep. These sheep are a physical resource that you can move around your empire. You can put the sheep in your capital, and maybe it's like +2 food and +1 happiness. Or you can, like another empire has a trade deal with you, they can buy your sheep automatically. They're just trading with you, and they are taking the sheep, your sheep, and you are getting money and other bonuses, and the sheep bonus is now affecting their city that they put it in. And this is the same for like strategics and luxuries.
They don't take the sheep from you.
Oh, they don't?
They matter replicate. They create a copy of the thing you have.
Yes, that's how it works. Yes.
They get a copy of it. They duplicate it, and you get money.
Yeah, which is really good, because it basically means if you have a luxury resource, which is like plus, like I think I found the gold resource, which was like -20% unit production or something, which was absolutely insane. And the AIs were like, oh, can we have a trade deal? I'm like, no. We will never trade.
You'll produce too many units.
Exactly, because if you have these luxury resources and you put them on your market, people will want them, and then they will get those modifiers. So maybe you don't want to be trading these resources, but at the same time, camels are the single most overpowered and broken trade resource in the entire game, and I don't even think you saw one.
There was a moment, this happened to me and Pravis, by the way, shout out to Pravis in the chat, where we were assigning resources to a city, and I was like, what if I put 2 camels in here? Now, camels were like insane. They were like +4 production or something ridiculous.
No, they weren't.
What were they again?
Camels were +2 slots for trade goods. So every city had a limit on the amount of trade goods you could put in it, but camels...
Then maybe I'm thinking of sheep.
You are thinking of sheep.
Sheep were +2 food, +2 production.
Yeah.
But the short version is, right, I put 2 sheep into my city, and it didn't use up a slot. Right?
Oh.
Or so I thought. And I was like, oh my god, am I going to create like the critical singularity, like the sheep singularity?
The density of sheep.
Just stuff sheep into the city until it becomes whatever. But then like the UI guy came over and was like, oh no. Like if you look carefully, actually one of your slots is now gone. Like,
yeah.
But it just looks like it hasn't been used. And I was like, damn. That was like, I was about to like walk up and go stand over to you and be like, we need to get the sheep.
We must harvest the sheep. Instead, Potato, it's camels. So camels give +2 trade good slots. So let's say a city has 4 slots. That means you can fit 4 sheep inside of it. If instead you fit 3 sheep and 1 camel, you can then fit 2 additional sheep inside of it. It's really, 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 really funny. And I very much enjoyed messing about with camels. They do seem like by far the most overpowered trade good in the entire game.
If you want to stuff a city full of trade goods, because there were reasons to spread them out. Like one of the, I can't remember which trade good it was, but it was like +2 food in your capital, but +4 in every other, like in a different city. So there are some resources you don't want to put in your capital, and some you do want to put in your capital. And like it was kind of cool. I like that they are playing around with those kind of ideas.
Yeah, it's really good. And to answer the question in chat, yes, the camels did stack. I had 4 camels in my capital city, meaning like I had infinite space for trade goods. I just stacked every modifier I possibly could on my capital city to the point where I could produce 3 Medjay units a turn. It was wonderful. Like the map was covered in units. It was very silly. But yeah, it's...
Wait, did the overflow allow you to build 3 things at a time?
Yes.
Oh, that's insane.
I don't know whether it was meant to, but it was.
That's insane.
But yeah, as you say, it's created this fun system whereby you have to be careful what you're trading away, and equally you might say settle a town or conquer a new town, and suddenly it makes sense for you to set up supply lines of trade goods to that town to funnel in the necessary supplies to like give them the edge. Like maybe it's in the desert and there's just no food around, we'll just send them a bunch of sheep to make up for it.
That's exactly what I did. Like whenever I would plant down a city, I would move my might build up a city resources into that city, right? Like, okay, you get a sheep and you get a sheep and this, that. And it was a kind of satisfying a gameplay loop.
I think that is the replacement to builders, in my opinion, in terms of gameplay.
It's the replacement to builders and also Great Works. It felt like moving around Great Works in your empire. Like,
oh my God,
resources are Great Works now, right? Yeah. And one thing I am super interested in, do you remember in Civ 6, do you remember the corporations game mode?
I do remember the corporations game mode, yeah.
Remember you could make your own resources?
Oh, yes.
You could make your own Great Works. What if we can get copper and then we can build like a unique building that turns that copper resource into a bronze resource that's better? Like I think there's a lot of potential for this, right? And I'm excited to see how they go about it.
I mean, what you're describing there is Ara Histories Untold, right? Because that is their main thing is you get you can basically have Minecraft crafting tables in the middle of the game as you combine sheep with wool.
That game is interesting. The numbers my brain melts when I play that game, but I am very interested to cover it in September.
I have not got access to it. I'm interested to. I don't think anyone.
I don't
has
have access either. I played
We played
alpha.
We played something
thing?
at Gamescom. Oh, they had an alpha test. I didn't get an invite to that.
They had a technical alpha, and we played at Gamescom last year. Oh, that was today almost.
Yeah, it was a year ago today. We were at Gamescom together, and we played that demo. Yeah, I remember
We floated around in Cologne.
Yes.
Kolsch.
It was good fun. It's very nice how strategy games bring us together.
It's beautiful.
So yeah, that's trade. There are still merchants that you physically can send to a place and set up a trade route, and that makes money. So that is still in the game, I would say. Geez, someone best be writing all of the things we're saying down so we can create like a timestamp chapter at the bottom so people can skip to the specific necessary points, because this is a long ramble. Oh my goodness.
Actually, are there any questions from the chat? Wait, we talked about resources so that we could talk about trade. Yeah, so the short version of trade is you send a trader to their city and it duplicates the trade resources in that city for you and gives the owner gold. And then somebody asked us about the AI. I'm going to say this. This was the first Civilization game where the AI was able to successfully pull off a surprise invasion of me, because I did not know they were coming and I wasn't ready for it. And I think I was playing on a standard difficulty. I was able to fight them off, but at least they seemed a little bit more competent at first glance. Yeah. And now I'm going to need a lot more time with the AI to really be able to figure that out. But that was my very first impression.
This is something that I would give a major caveat to, because we have had 3 hours with this AI, and I have seen things, and I can't tell if they are tactical genius or dumb decision making that looks good. Like, for example, I had a surprise war declared on me, which was also took me by surprise because the AI was being aggressive, and that was fun. I like that. And then I then repelled the AI, and I got up to one of their cities, and they had a unit defending the city, and they pulled the unit out. They ran the unit away. Now, to me, I'm like, lol, is the AI dumb? Because they've now given away the city. I can just march on in. It's mine. But there is also a certain logic of the city was lost. They had one unit, I had it surrounded. They had the ability to pull that unit out, put it on a boat, and sail it back to the next city. So to me, it's either a good AI making a tactical decision to withdraw a troop to fight as a larger force the next day, or dumb AI thinking that, oh, we're going to now take this unit on a flanking maneuver. Oh dear, we've lost the city. Right, time to reevaluate. And there is unfortunately no way of knowing in just 3 hours. Like, it could be the exact same AI as Civ 5, and we just wouldn't be able to tell at this moment, basically.
Yes. Very similar to me. Like, the AI, they declared war on me. They walked a general inside my borders, and he immediately dropped his load of units on my. Like, I wasn't ready for it. But then, similarly, a different AI walked an unprotected general right up to my city, and then sat there as I pounded on him. So it's like, maybe there's a little bit of tactical genius. Maybe the general was there to distract me. Like, a little bit of tactical genius, also a little bit of not so tactical genius.
Yeah, and it is early. This is one of the things that I think are easier to change and do change quite regularly. But yeah, it's very. This is the hardest thing to judge of like a 3-hour gameplay slice. I don't think.
Time, right?
Yeah, I think anyone telling you the AI is better or worse has absolutely no fucking clue what they're talking about, because there is physically no way of knowing at this moment in time. You have mentioned generals, and I will bring up another exploit I found, which is very funny, because it makes the strategy of surprise invasions even better. So you mentioned how generals have the upgrade tree. Well, one of them is this aggressive upgrade that you talked about, which is from, I think it's the first one in Assault. Basically, you can, when you press the deploy army from the general and your general spits out the units can then move. What this then means is if you position generals in like a daisy chain, you can have your general spit out a unit, and then they have full movement, so they move to the next general, which then spits out the unit, and it's then reset with full movement, and it moves to the next general, which then spits it out, and you just repeat. And you can have like this soldier cross the entire map on one turn, basically. It's a logistical nightmare to set up, but if it stayed in the game, this is what the multiplayer meta would be. It would be a daisy chain of generals, and sweaty tryhards would teleport units to the front line.
I'm pretty sure that is not intended behavior. And if it is intended behavior, well, that's just going to be the meta. The Great General Superhighway is what we will call it. But I never actually tried that. That was actually genius of you.
Thank you.
But if that works,
I am
that's
a genius.
incredible.
I mean, yeah, the generals were really fun to mess about with. Very, very fun.
What I like about the generals gathering experience is it, like in XCOM, it feels really bad to lose a guy that you spent like dozens of missions and like losing, right? And similarly, like losing a swordsman that had like 7 promotions was like, ugh. And now, if you lose, now any old swordsman is like, oh, I lost the swordsman.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the swordsman is dead. A new swordsman will take his place, but the general who buffed swordsman is still alive. And equally, it means you have like, if you do lose your general, it's like, oh wow, this is actually like a meaningful loss. It's not just. I feel like in Civ 5 or 6, if you lose your upgraded unit, it's like, oh, well, I'll just train 2 more to make up for it. There is actually a tangible loss to your empire, and it makes there be like this meaningful setback, I would say, which is good. I feel like meaningful setback is necessary to make war feel like it actually has a punch, because that's kind of one of the things that makes, I don't know, like Rome Total War feel so good. Yeah, in my opinion.
I had a question in chat real quick. It was about the elevation. In terms of elevations, I didn't see any particular large impacts on gameplay from elevations. I did see that tiles were at different elevations, but it seemed to be mostly cosmetic, with the exception of like land cliffs. There are edges of tiles now that you cannot cross because they have land cliffs.
Which is really fun.
Really cool, really fun.
Because it's a choke point that isn't a mountain, basically, which is good.
Exactly. So that like cliffs, like you could park an archer on there and shoot down from the cliff. Like that's possible now. But I don't know how extensive elevation is on the gameplay, right?
Yeah, from my perspective, I don't think it. I did fight on a cliff, and I don't think it added any combat advantage. I think it was purely like a fun hurdle. It visually looked really good, I would like to add. And having to actually march a unit around, I think the first time I encountered it, I was like, why is my unit not just going in a straight line? And then I realized, oh, it's a cliff edge. He has to go around it, which, yeah, I kind of liked. I kind of liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, I found it interesting. And look, more like we have two new major terrain features in Civ 7. That's navigable rivers and land cliffs. And so I think...
Yeah, you guys got hyped about navigable rivers. Wait until you hear about land cliffs, guys. This is the big one. It's super big.
Navigable rivers were cool. It's basically just like a hybrid land sea tile. That's freshwater. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, it is. It's quite fun, and it makes. I think it made logistics quite interesting, and I think that in terms of the first age, I don't really feel that it added too much, but I feel that in future ages, as you know, water transport gets more important, it actually is quite interesting. Because previously,
I think it makes naval trade interesting.
Yeah, I quite like it. Because it does feel more like historical in terms of settling along a river, like say the River Thames in the UK. You've got all of these great cities positioned along the River Thames because it just makes sense. Or I guess even we have like these non-natural rivers in the forms of canals. Like you've got Birmingham and like Manchester and Liverpool all along this massive canal because it makes a great logistics chain. I love it. Yeah.
No, 100%. I don't really think navigable rivers needs to really have a big gameplay impact. I think they are just cool, right? Like navigable rivers are just cool, just like natural wonders are cool, world wonders are cool. Even if their gameplay impact is not massive, I'm there for it. It's cool. They're cool.
Yeah. It's pretty fun. I'm looking forward to it. People are talking about wonders, Potato. Did you build any?
I built a couple of wonders. They're like Civ 6 wonders. They take up a full tile, and they take a while to build. Different cultures have, I think, they have like relevant wonders, I guess is the word to say. They have like Egypt has a bonus towards building the pyramids. That's their wonder.
Yeah. I think Rome is like the Colosseums.
Yes. And wonders were cool. I don't really remember the bonuses that they gave. A lot of the bonuses in the game were like, oh, +1 gold from shrines, or +7 faith, or +7 happiness for city or something, right? Like,
yeah.
Again, we had like 3 hours and a lot was happening in that 3 hours, so it's hard to remember exactly everything.
Yeah, I can't say a lot of the wonders felt. The wonders didn't feel terribly wonderful, in my opinion.
They didn't feel impactful.
I couldn't
like,
tell
you
if
get
that
the hanging
was...
gardens in Babylon, in Civ 5, and you're like, I'm an absolute Chad.
Yeah, and I feel like you kind of know what you're... Yeah, but I can't tell if that's because we know these games well, and we know the power of the wonders, or because they didn't feel actually impactful from a gameplay perspective. I think it's like this learning thing. And there were quite a few new wonders that I'd never really heard of and had like funny names. Like there's this science one where it's like, oh cool, a science wonder, it's the Great Library. And it's like, no, it's got this funky different antiquity and name, which I can't even pronounce, which,
I think it was like the Assyrian Kurdu Blue or something.
Yes, that was exactly the one. Yes, 100%. Which, yeah, I think is cool. Someone is saying, oh, governor's gone.
Governors are... gone as far as I know.
We didn't encounter them. Maybe they exist in future ages, but they're definitely not in the first age, as far as we know.
Yeah, well, I didn't encounter governors, but I cannot say that they are gone for sure.
Yeah, because it's kind of, we don't know what's coming in the next ages. We know that this age is focused on the foundation of civilization and kind of like building these massive wonders and like working out, setting the foundation of the landscape. The second age is about exploring and discovering more, and then the
The
final
map
age
actually gets bigger in the second age, from what I've heard.
yeah, which is quite interesting. I'm not too sure how I feel about that. The fact that, I mean, I do like the fact that you go into the next age and there is basically a new world to explore and discover. But yeah, I don't know how that's going to play out because we didn't play it. Yeah, and we don't know if Nuclear Gandhi's in the game either. That's, I mean, he's probably in the game. If I had to wager good money, Nuclear Gandhi will be an option. I mean, you can have warlike Gandhi. Gandhi could lead the Huns.
Oh, yes, you could. You could have Gandhi lead like the Huns, and then the Mongols, and then who's like modern age Mongols? I don't know.
Modern age Mongols. Ireland, right? You
Yeah,
guys.
Ireland. Then you need
Yeah.
Ireland. No, I think ultimately, like my opinion on the game right now as it stands is cautiously optimistic. It all sounds cool, but it's going to be like really, it's going to be when I play the game, I'm going to know, you know?
Yeah, I am of the opinion that there was a lot of. I was very concerned when they announced a feature, and I was like, "Oh, Humankind tried this and didn't do well, and Millennia tried this, and they also kind of like botched the execution." And like, there's this certain level of like concern of like this feature is almost like there is a lot of fear around this. So when it's mentioned, there's fear. It's like, oh no,
Yeah.
will this mirror the mistakes of Humankind? And then actually playing it, it's like, oh, this is not Humankind. This is civilization. What was I getting worried about in the first place? It's
Exactly.
very,
It was like in
yeah.
when Marvel Midnight Suns was announced, and they were like, "Oh, you get to choose your heroes' cards that they bring to battle," and people were like, "This is a card game," and like that game never recovered from that. And people are like, "Oh, it's Humankind," and like, I mean, it's not really. It's very different. It's
Yeah.
similar, but it's not. You know.
I would say that whether you will enjoy this game or not is never going to be based off of the perception of Humankind as a video game. Whether you enjoy
Correct.
this game or not will be based off of this game's own merits. Like,
Yes.
it's not like they saw Humankind and were like, this is an incredible feature from this incredibly successful game, we will copy it. No, they went for this because Ed Beach really liked the idea of rising and falling civilizations, which Humankind didn't really do. Humankind was just like, wouldn't it be cool if you could be like super amazing like Egyptians, and then eventually you could be like Germany, and it was all about just chaining modifiers together, whereas hopefully this isn't chaining modifiers together. It is actually, oh my god, my civilization is collapsing as this age ends, because that's what I want. I want to feel like history is occurring and my skill as a leader to stand the test of time actually matters, because civilization is all about standing the test of time, whereas in almost every other Civ game you have stood the test of time until turn 100 and then you are just curb stomping people, or you are just pressing end turn and repeating the same actions. It's like, oh, I have stood the test of time surviving the early game, and now I will go for a culture victory. I will just end turn as I select every culture option that comes my way. No, I want external threats. I want there to be almost like a story engine, like in RimWorld or Crusader Kings, where like these things are happening that are pushing me to adapt. And then in multiplayer, that'd be way more fun. Suddenly it's like, oh, like multiplayer Stellaris is really awesome because you have this established dynamic that gets thrown out of whack the minute the end game crisis arrives, right? Or even the mid game crisis, which is super fun. Like it adds such a flavor to the game.
Yes. There are there's a couple of, my brain is blasting right now. There's a couple of things I want to talk about.
Go for it.
One of them was no, it's leaving my mind. Wait, hold on. What were you talking about? You were talking about the end game events.
Crises, yes. Rise and fall
crises.
of civilizations.
Okay. I was going to say something cool, but that's gone out of my mind. Here's an
Everyone
important thing.
laugh and say the potato's really smart and like the stream. Thank you very much.
Here's a really important thing that we haven't talked about.
Go for it.
Speaking of Crusader Kings 2 and EU4, this game has narrative events.
Yeah.
And they're not just like, oh, a comet in the sky, -1 stability. there are like story event chains that can lead to major bonuses or negatives for your civilization based on the choices you make. I didn't
Yes.
actually get to see those, but I heard people talking about them.
Yeah,
Now, I don't know what.
I had a few and they were quite fun. I had one very early on, which was like, our people have encountered these new independents. What do we do with them? And one of the options is like, okay, well, we're Roman. Let's just pummel them into the ground. And it's like, okay, you have 10 turns to find their settlement and raise it to the ground. And in those 10 turns, you get a modifier so that you can build an army quicker, which is really cool. And then after you've raised them to the ground, it's like, oh, wow, we did a great job raising them to the ground. Our people are really happy, so here's some happiness. And also, here's a military attribute point that you can sink into the skill tree kind of thing, which was kind of fun. I like that.
Yes, and you get like I guess for lack of a better word, I'll say quests. That are like little things that if you achieve them, you'll get like bonuses and attribute points and stuff like that, which is kind of neat. Some people are not going to like that. When it comes to the narrative event system, I have two feelings about it. Okay, narrative event systems are cool, they're neat, they're interesting, but I don't really care about narrative event systems. And by the 20th time I've played the game, I know all the correct options I want to click on an event to get the outcome that I want. Or it's frustrating because every time I get an important event chain, I have to open a wiki and Google the answer of like, how do I get to the thing that I want?
I would say, yeah, I am also scared. Well, I'm not necessarily scared of that, but I don't want a Stellaris situation because I play a lot of Civ multiplayer, right? And the worst thing in Stellaris is going through quest lines in like a multiplayer thing where you just have to know the correct answers, otherwise it just sucks because you don't have time to read and you can just be pressing buttons. It's like, oh wait, all of my empire's dead. Oops, I pressed the psionic entity consumes my planets button by accident. In this, it was much more like there is some flavor text that in single player you could read, or you could hover over your choices and it would very clearly tell you if you are doing this, you are going to be getting something that is a more diplomatic approach, or if you're doing this, you are going to get something that is a more military approach, and you can probably work out the kind of long-term impacts that's going to have on your empire.
Yeah. So I think again for that system, I'm like cautiously skeptical. I mean, it could be really cool, it could be really bad. It's all going to come down to how it plays. I
completely agree. It is one of those features where I wasn't concerned about it going in because I'm so used to them in games, but at the same time, it's there and it's a concern I have. And the current implementation I had of it was okay. It could be better, but it wasn't the worst I've seen. So I was optimistic is for me, whereas you're like cautiously concerned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's just I've been playing a lot of Victoria 3. God help me. And
too late.
In that game, you get so many events so often that I like they're so samey that I'm just like I'm clicking my way through them like mindlessly.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
This was like I think I got 2 events throughout the entire age, and it felt more like this is nudging, like this is more offering me an option to focus my empire as opposed to holding my hand and telling me, oh, you should kill those people. It's like, oh, your people would think that we should be focusing our empire more towards this. That's kind of how I see it. It's more like the advisor is saying, we have an opportunity here, sir. And you're like, yes, we shall exploit this opportunity for this benefit. Which, yeah, I can get behind that. I would not get behind having to do pop-ups endlessly. It would suck. It would really suck.
Yeah. I remembered what the thing I wanted to talk about earlier was, and it actually kind of forks into this nicely, and it has to do with pacing.
Ah, yes. Pacing, yes.
So, and pacing from a actual like turn-to-turn perspective. So there are a lot more turns in a game of Civ now, right? Because you're going to play like 450 to 600 in a whole campaign. But I did feel like I got through my turns faster, right? There was less kind of busy work, and I was making interesting decisions, like instead of just busy work, right? Like there wasn't a lot of like I need to move a builder over here and I need to move this military unit and I need to do this. A lot of it was like, ooh, which tile do I improve? That one. Boom. Next city. Oh, I improved that tile. Oh, need to pick a new building to build. So there was more turns, but I got through them faster was kind of the feeling I felt.
Yeah.
So like the actual gameplay pacing for me felt okay. It felt okay. I don't know if I want to strongly say it felt amazing or like wonderful. It felt fine.
Yeah, I completely I agree. To me, actually no, I don't agree. To me, pacing is off. This is my biggest frustration with the game, and I think would be my major pressure point as to whether I would stick with Civ 7 as like my like whether this becomes my favorite Civ game or not is purely down to pacing. Because like I can enjoy some of the mechanics in Civ 6 more than Civ 5, and some of them more in Civ 4 than Civ 5 or whatever. Like, I can pick and choose the mechanics I enjoy, and I will play them when I require different things. But ultimately, I play the Civ games. The Civ game that is my favorite is the one that nails that pacing the best, and the pacing here feels off. And
fair. No, that's a reasonable opinion to have.
It upsets me. It immensely upsets me. One thing that I do love to see in the community, though, which is my favorite thing, are people who are like, you know, the kind of people who run really insular communities in Civilization being like, this is gonna suck, as if they were ever going to play Civilization 7 in the first place. Like, if all you do is play Civ 5 with the Lek mod multiplayer, or Civ 6 with a bunch of better balanced game mods multiplayer, you will never transition to Civ 7 because you never transition from the last game. Like, it doesn't make sense. You have your perfected game, and that's all you play. It does not make sense. Yeah, just enjoy it. You don't need to change your game. It's fine. Keep at it, and don't be upset, okay? Like, Lek mod is really fun. It's a really fun multiplayer experience, but a new Civ game is never going to change that. It's never, like... If Civ 7 released as just here's Civ 5 Lek mod with better graphics, it would suck balls, in my opinion. Like, that would be the worst Civ game that could possibly happen. Because for 99% of the people who play Civ, they should not be playing Civ 5 with the Lek mod. Or Civ 6 balanced for multiplayer games. Like, they're very different ways of playing the game. It's like rocking up to a Magic the Gathering game and being like, I think I'm not going to get this because this is Commander and I only play Standard. And it's like, okay, well, this is a thing for Commander players, right? That's all that matters. Like, I'm
sending you a meme that perfectly encapsulates this feeling. It's a giant thumb guy meme, okay? We're all over here having a great time talking about a thing, and a guy on the outside goes like, I hate Civ 7. A guy from the group goes, cool. And then we go back to talking about Civ 7. Like, that's the whole, like...
That is
no one cares,
exactly
bro.
it. Yeah. Let me transform it so it fits onto screen. This is the meme. That's basically Civ 7 discussion.
It does. Oh, now it fits. There we go.
Yeah.
Look, people on the left, the guy on the left is everyone saying that Civ 7 is going to be trash. It's like, great, cool. We're gonna find out.
Well, it's people who are saying Civ 7 is trash because it isn't like the Civ 7. It's not their version of Civ, right? And the Civ games always change and are always different. And you could play this and you might get 100 hours out of it. You could play it and you might get 1,000 hours out of it. You could play it and you only get 1 hour out of it. That's Civilization. It's of no loss to you because you still have the old Civ that you enjoy playing.
It's still there, bro.
It's still there. Don't worry. It's not you, like, the devs haven't spat in your face, okay? It's fine. It's okay. If I play Civ 7 and it's a bad game, I will if I play Civ 7 and the pacing is really off and I don't enjoy it, I just don't mesh with it, that's fine. It's completely fine for me. The only reason I'd be upset is because I wouldn't be making fat stacks of money from people watching it if it completely bombed, okay, on release. That's all. It's purely the YouTuber brain being like, oh, every new game release must be good, so that way mentally, you know, the audience is happy and I get more opportunities to break games. Like, I will play Civ 7 if I have fun playing Civ 7. And I hope I have fun playing Civ 7, and I hope it's a good game. It might be a good game that I only get hundreds of hours into, it might be my next EU4. I don't know.
Yep.
We won't
The
know.
thing that weirds me out about it is it feels like here's the thing. It's totally fine to have criticisms and concerns about Civ 7, but having criticisms and concerns about Civ 7 feels totally different to just being like, the game is trash, they've made it casual, it's going to be crap. And it's like, it feels like you want the game to be bad rather than you think the game is bad. You know what I mean?
Which to me redacts from the things that are actually my major
Bad about the
concerns
game.
in Civ 7. Yeah, like
Yes.
like you can, like, when Civ 6 came out, people were acting as if this was the end of civilization because the art style changed, right? Like,
Yep.
Civ 6 is a fun game. It's very odd. Whereas for something like for Civ 7, it's like it's different, and it's okay to be different. But if all you're hung up on is like these minor changes, you're going to miss the major points which I think the developers should and potentially need to be criticized about or warned about or get suggestions from. If your suggestion to the devs team is remove the era mechanic, I'm sorry, but you should have contacted them in 2018 when they started development. Like, you can't, it's too late for that now. You accept the features that are going to be here forever and the design
has
philosophy.
sailed.
That ship has sailed. If there are problems with the AI or the UI or like the way 2K is behaving with the various editions of the game, you need to call that out. If there are weird pre-order stuff, which is the case, like if you pre-order this, you get like some extra civilizations to play. I think that's a really scummy decision. I think that's a really bad decision that is negative to the gaming community. I don't think that is a benefit to this game, and I think it's a detriment, and I think that gamers should rise up. We are the oppressed minority. No, we that kind of thing should be noted for what it is, and you just should point it out and be like, I'm not comfortable with this. This is wrong. Because if all you do
there
is upvote
is
every
to
post,
go on social media and calmly tell them that you don't like it, if you don't like it.
Exactly. Because if all you're doing is saying, this is Humankind 2.0, baby game, graphics sucks, woman narrating, wah, 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 then for every person doing that, it is drowning out the actual criticism that can change and things that can be done to improve this game or give the devs inspirations and change. Like, that's my perspective. If all of the Civ 6 narrative was just like, well, I mean, actually, it was Civ 6 narrative where it was just like, lol, the game looks terrible when it was releasing. Then, if that hadn't
But that had an
happened-
impact, right? But that had an impact on Civ 7. Because now Civ 7 looks like this.
That's true.
They pulled back on the cartoony leader art style, and now we have weird paper Augustus.
So what you're saying is people should complain more about this being Humankind 2.0 baby game, and in future we will get Civ 8, which will be like a spreadsheet simulator game that you play in Excel.
Correct. The more you pummel the developers and cry about the game not being what you want, the more likely that they're going to be pigeonholed into making a really bad game as the sequel to the game you don't like. But look, here's the thing. Really what it comes down to is this sort of pre-order stuff, all this stuff, there is a reason that they do these things. It is because it makes them more money. And so your solution can't be, you have to stop doing this. You have to figure out a way to incentivize them to not do it in a way that the company cares about.
It does sometimes feel like this unwinnable situation, though, because for me, the most egregious, like, okay, the collector's edition where you don't actually get the game thing, fine, that's silly. Other developers have done it. The more recent one that I don't like is the fact that you can pay extra money in order to play the game a few days early. So, for example, if you buy the regular game for $60 US, actually, sorry, $70 US, it's only $60 on the Nintendo Switch for some reason. If you buy the game for $70, you will play it on the 11th of February. However, if you pay extra money, if you pay $100, so you pay that extra money, you get to play it on the 6th of February, which the problem is people will do. Because it worked for Starfield and it made a huge amount of money. And it worked for Starfield in an incredibly good way. Now, the problem for me is that the more and more that these things exist, the more and more publishers will think, oh, this game has a lot of hype and we can this is another way of selling pre-orders, basically. It's another way of us guaranteeing our financial return and like hedging our bets and minimizing risk, which then makes them more likely to cut corners with other aspects, in my opinion. If a publisher has a safer way of returning investment, they're more likely to go, oh yeah, just rush it out ahead of time. Don't delay it. We've promised them that they can have the game early on this date. So we have to give them the game early on this date. We can't delay it. And so the more publishers have this kind of like control, the more negative I feel it is for the developers and the gamers as a whole for me.
Yeah. No, I agree. I look, the weird collector's edition that doesn't actually contain the game, that's weird. You can't choose to buy the game with it in some stores. I don't know exactly how that works. Here's the thing. All this sort of publisher fuckery is because they make more money. And that's what it really comes down to. And it sucks. I don't like it. I don't like the idea that I have never liked FOMO mechanics. FOMO mechanics drive me away from things, right? If it's like, oh, you need to pre-order the €90 edition, or you don't get Blood Moon Napoleon. Yeah. I'm like, I just don't want to play your game because I feel like you're manipulating me.
100%.
If more people just took that route, like, here's what you should do. You should go to the 2K website, find their contact form, and I think there's like a feedback thing. Type a really polite email about the thing that you are upset about, being like, hey, I didn't like this because it made me feel manipulated, and for that reason, blah, 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 blah. Quickly type, literally, if you had, right, how many people have we got watching?
We've got 6,000 people watching me currently.
Okay, I've got 6,000, you've got 6,000, I've got like less than that, I think. 3,500. If 10,000 people sent in emails just being like, hey, I'm not cool with this thing that you guys are doing, they have to count that, right? These are feedback emails that are tracked and noted and quantified, and there are reports done that move up the chain of information to the CEO, right? That the CEO is like, we just got 10,000 emails of people complaining about the pre-order system. I need to look into this, right? But they don't get that. What they get is plus 4 billion, quarterly report or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, from often, like, what they will see is, like, I don't know, when a subreddit kicks off and is, like, really active, or there's a bunch of tweets, they'll just be like, oh, wow, the SEO interest for this topic is really popping off. That's awesome. People are talking about the product. Like, they don't actually see that, there's actually, like, a concern or complaint behind it. Yeah, it's, there's nothing to be gained from, like, sending a message to, I don't know, Steve, a QA intern at Firaxis. Poor Steve does not control these pre-order decisions. This is very much a 2K decision, and which is why, for example, if you link your 2K account with your gaming platform of choice, you will get the Napoleon Bonaparte revolutionary persona. That's a thing. That's genuinely a thing. Oh.
Yep.
Why?
Yeah.
It doesn't. Just put it in the game.
Yeah, just put. I really don't like it when they.
In 8 years' time or whatever, or like in 20 years' time, when the 2K game servers go offline, you can't play with Revolutionary Napoleon anymore. Like,
yep.
This is why I hate.
It's like, why would development time be put to silo this feature?
Yeah, it's just barriers for entry. I hate barriers for entry.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I don't like it. And like they say, like, oh, and there's certain things, oh, you have to do this before launch to get it. And I'm like, why?
Yeah. Doesn't have to be this way.
Why?
It doesn't.
You're manipulating FOMO. Just let me have it. Because, like, somebody 20 years from now is going to discover Civ 7 and be like, I want to play this game. And it's going to be like, oh, you weren't around in 2025 for the Blurgle Festival? And you are missing 5 skins for these guys, so you can't do it.
God. If there was a game...
Or you didn't get the Civ 7 Battle Pass in 2026, you don't have Egypt.
You've just reminded me of one of the most egregious examples of this, which was Humankind's Persona, like, avatar drop, whereby you had to watch a stream of the streamer, like you had to watch Quill18 on Twitch in order to get the Quill18 avatar in-game. And so for completionists who wanted every avatar, they had to watch every content creator, which became a problem.
I only ever did one stream for that, so
and I did none, because I don't stream on Twitch. They put me in the game, and the only way to unlock me was to play against me in multiplayer publicly or watch my stream for 2 hours. But I never streamed, and I never played in any public Humankind lobbies.
Amazing.
So it's just lost media. I am lost media. Oh, dear.
Here's what I would be okay with, okay? Have you played Helldivers 2?
Yes.
Do you know how the Helldivers 2 battle passes work?
Yeah, I do.
They're available forever. You just
Yeah.
you can pick which one you want to progress in. So like if it was like, oh, here's a Napoleon skin for linking your 2K account, and that's available forever. It's okay, whatever. I'll link my 2K account. Fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That would feel a little bit less. It's still annoying, but I think didn't they put like a time limit on it or something?
Must be linked. How do I get my Emperor persona? Please go and sign up your 2K account. Maybe. I think it does say. I don't know. There are a few things that are limited. Like, for example, the Founders Edition is only limited until February the 28th. Hello, can you hear me?
Your sound cut out for a split second, or my audio did.
Yeah, there are some editions which are temporary, like the Founders Edition is no longer purchasable after February the 28th, for example.
Damn.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe, I'll read the fact sheet and see.
Yeah. There's some things I need to like look into, and you know, I'll probably make a critique video going over like the controversies of Civ 7, going through the things that are going to be, you know, the most like controversial in the community. But I think like here's the thing: we have a potentially really cool new game coming, right? And then they're doing all this weird pre-order stuff.
Yeah, which is a shame because I don't know.
But it just feels standard now at this point in the industry, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure in like a year's time or whatever, it just won't even be remembered or talked about. Like it's just a footnote. Yep. It's just a thing that's happening at this moment. In the same way that like in a few years after the release of Civ 6, no one really cares that the game looks the way it does. Like you just get used to it. It's like, I don't know, when you're walking through the countryside and you smell cow poo. After like 10 minutes, your nose adjusts to it and you no longer smell cow poo. Like it's just, it's a thing you experience that you no longer take notice of. Yeah.
One of my favorite movies ever. It's about a kid who runs away from home, and he's in the car with the policeman being taken home towards the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. And the window is open as they're driving through the countryside. And the kid says, "Oh my God, what is that smell?" Because he's from Northern Ireland, right?
I see.
And the policeman who is from the Republic is like, "That, my dear lad, is the smell of the open countryside." And the kid just says, "Well, they should fucking close it because it smells like shit."
Oh my God.
I love that movie. I watched that movie and it was bad up until that line, and that redeemed the whole movie.
Oh my God. That's good.
But I tell you what, it's getting to about 8 p.m. and I got to play D&D in like 30 minutes.
You can.
So I'm gonna take a little.
That's okay. Yeah, you can.
I'm gonna host you.
Oh, you're gonna host me on YouTube. Thank you very much.
You want to be hosted?
Yeah, sure. You can host me. You can raid into me. If you're raiding in from Potato, I'll do a fun little summary. I'll answer any more questions whilst Potato heads off and enjoys his D&D.
I gotta remember how to do the summoning.
Yeah, it's quite funny. Before you head off, though, a lovely content creator called Blue Jay popped into the chat and said, "Didn't catch the beginning of the stream. Was your overall impression positive or negative?" I'll let you go first, Potato.
I would say cautiously optimistic. Some things were negative, some things were positive, some things I didn't like, some things I did like. I have concerns, but I am somewhat confident that the team can pull it off.
There we go. That's Potato's opinion. For me, I had major concerns with the way the game was pitched, especially to do with ages. And ultimately, I had fun with features that I thought I wouldn't have fun with or would struggle with. And provided there is adjustments to the game, I think this could be an absolutely incredible Civilization game. And I had fun playing it in the 3 hours in which I played it. Does that mean either of us think you should pre-order the game, Potato?
I mean, pre-order if you want. It's your money. I don't give a shit.
I do give a shit. Don't you fucking dare. Actually, I don't mind. Yeah, if you got money, pre-order. But I'm firmly of the stance that you shouldn't pre-order video games. But then again,
Sure,
some of
you
you
should never pre-order video games, right?
some of you
But
are
at the end of the
crippling.
day, it's your money. Do it. I don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah, exactly. I'm not going to truly judge you for it. Yeah, I just think, if you really want to, fine. At the end of the day, many of you will be crippling Civ addicts, and you can't scratch the desire to play the game 7 days early or whatever, or 5 days early. You have to play the Civ 5 days early. I get it.
Yes.
I get it.
Here's the thing about the pre-orders, right? If you are thinking the pre-order is too expensive or that it's not worth it, it's not for you, right? It's for the
Yeah.
people that are super fans of super fans of the game, and they are going to pre-order it. Like people
Yeah.
like me, like I would pre-order the game.
It's for the kinds of people who paint Warhammer. Like, if I'm being honest, that's
Exactly.
exactly the kind of person who pre-orders games.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you play Magic the Gathering, paint Warhammer, or I don't know, play Airsoft, pre-order the game because you don't know how to spend money effectively anyway. Just follow your base desires, which is to play Civ early. Okay, pre-order the game. Fine.
Yeah. No, but no, really, never pre-order games. That's the reality. Is realistically, there is no reason to pre-order a game, which is why they often have to pack a pre-order with a bunch of bonuses to get you to pre-order the game.
Yes.
Pre-orders came from a time when there was limited availability of discs. This is a digital product. There is no limited availability, right? They have created an artificial scarcity and FOMO to try to trick you into giving them more money. You don't have to do that, okay? But if it worked, just give them the money. Who cares, right? Whatever.
Yeah, it's oh god, it's such an ethical dilemma. I hate it, Potato. I hate it. This is the worst. Like every inch of my being has been burnt by so many like pre-orders and like games be like promising hype and just deliberately bumbling their way across the line in a terrible state because they felt they had to meet pre-order requirements.
Now, if you
God.
really, okay, now this is dark technology. Don't tell anybody I told you this. Are you guys ready? So if you really want to hurt them, pre-order the game now and then refund it on release. Oh my God.
That would actually
They
cause a
will be
breakdown.
so mad.
That would be
okay.
that would be a problem.
Do not do this. I do not endorse this strategy.
Or you just pirate the game on the 6th of February, get rid of your pirate copy and buy the game on the 11th. I don't know. We do not endorse video game piracy on this channel.
I disavow any piracy statements unless it's the 1800s.
Or it's abandonware. I am all for pirating Battle for Middle-earth 2 or whatever. Like that. Games that you can no longer find. Go for it. Knock yourself out. Oh dear. Anyway, head off.
All right,
Potato.
I'm going to
Enjoy
end my
yourself.
stream. Catch you later. Love you, buddy. Bye
Bye-bye,
bye.
Tato.
Smooches, kisses.
Smooches. Bye bye, Tato. Now I will remove his form from my stream. There we go. He is gone. Oh, it is just me alone in the void chat. Hello. It's just us. Welcome. We can actually, I feel like, hang out for a little bit. Mango and Connor are arguing in the chat. Oh, Mango and Connor, behave yourself. Welcome. I feel like we answered a lot of questions, but we will answer. I can answer basically quite a few quite quickly. RT, you there? I don't know if RT's still here. Oh, he is still there. Hi, RT. You can, if you're still around, would you like a chat? Because I think RT's perspective is very different. One of the interesting things is that a lot of people who played the Civ 7 early kind of thing, I think, had different opinions, right? So my experience was probably more on the positive end of the spectrum. There were some people there who were like from, I don't know, the Civ 5 multiplayer scene or whatever, and I feel like they didn't mesh with the game very well. There was some like, I don't know who they, I think Chinese creators who absolutely love the game and were like head over heels for everything, which was kind of quite unexpected and kind of interesting to see as well. It's kind of unique to me, I would say. Artie said he had about an hour and a half ago. Okay, I guess he's off having a lovely time. Yeah, Artie Games' opinions, I don't know all of them, but for him, his main concerns were to do with the UI and kind of like handling visual elements of the game. because it was kind of like a challenge to. It was a challenge to learn. It wasn't as easy to slip into, I feel, as like Civ 6. So quite fairly, I think he had some good concerns with that. And he was very good at articulating the changes he would recommend to the devs, which is kind of the reason why we were brought on the trip, which was good. Is there going to be a video on the exploits you did in the playtest? No, because I don't have any of my own footage. I can tell you the exploits I did in my playtest. Mostly it was exploiting the Medjay unit, which was free, and had some crazy bonuses. Let me see if I can get Egypt up on the screen. Here we go. So as you can see, Egypt has the Medjay, which is a unique unit, plus 3 combat strength in friendly territory, which was really good. And I combined this with the leader of Augustus, which is plus 50% gold towards purchasing buildings in towns. The first exploit I pulled off was on turn 0, when I could use this gold discount to buy a building for free on the first turn. I don't know why, but I think there must have been some kind of like production calculation glitch. So yeah, I could just do that for free. So that was the first glitch. Yeah, I guess true. Putting that into perspective, that means the first exploit I experienced was on my first turn of the game, which is pretty funny. M. Lane, thank you for your donation of $50. Say, Mini Spiff, let's go. Mini Rianu when? I don't know, but maybe soon, actually. That could be good fun. You're liking the art style a lot more than Civ 6? Yeah, for me, the world art style is really good. It's really, really good. And the background art is beautiful. I really like this background menu art. Really nice looking. The character models, I don't care about. I think they'll be a turn-off for some people, but I think for most people, you might have an opinion on them, and then you'll forget as your brain kind of fills in the blanks, in my opinion. That's how that's kind of how I see the world. Are they fixing multiplayer? God, I hope so. I don't know. We didn't play multiplayer, and the fact that it has crossplay with Nintendo Switch is kind of challenging, because they have to make multiplayer work from a Switch and a PS4 and a PC at the same time, and I feel like that could be quite a mess. Yeah, it was kind of it's going to be odd, very odd. Do you know are we putting a bet on how many exploits Spiff can find on day 1? Well, technically, in the playtest we did, I think there were 4 exploits that I would say I found, with about another 7 that I reckon I could have pulled off. There were so many modifiers to do with like statistics in this game. Like, for example, Augustus, the plus 50% gold towards purchasing buildings. That basically means buildings are 50% cheaper to buy with gold. And that could then be stacked with so many other modifiers to the point where I imagine you could very easily get like a plus 250% gold reduction or whatever, which is kind of interesting. Someone said, is this Humankind 2.0? It really isn't. I was concerned when they pitched it, from like when the lead designer did his conversation and was like, oh, your ages, there are ages. And I'm like, oh my God, if it's like Humankind, we have problems. But it's not. It does play like Civ. Do I like the Fog of War? Kind of. I do actually. The Fog of War is an interesting one. I did not really like the way the Fog of War goes up and down at the borders. You can see at the top here, there's kind of like an up and down. I found that kind of disorienting. I felt that like the Fog of War in Civ 6 does a better job of alluding to what could be next, whereas this just felt a bit hodgepodge, almost like a jigsaw. Yeah. Master Potato says, I know you only had access to the first age, but how do you feel about the forced Civ changing? Do you think there'll be enough Civs to not get stale? Yeah, I think there'll be loads. Absolutely loads. I think the combinations here could be ridiculous. I like I said, I feel that this is going to be more of like a deck building game whereby you can stack like a build together, as opposed to just like, you know, you're railroaded into decisions, which is pretty interesting for me. Will you exploit the game and make a video about it? Of course, 100%. Like I will play this. I will play this game and I will exploit it. Whether it gets made into a video, I don't know. There's many factors that come into whether a game gets made into a video. Like, if I had as much fun, like, to me, I felt that there was enough to make a video out of the first age, but I don't know what state the game is going to be in at actual launch. The Life Sentence says, I'm not a fan of 2K springing new terms of service on me after I already purchased the game and making its continued use contingent on the acceptance of those terms. Yeah, it's not cool to see that kind of stuff lumped in. But ultimately, we don't know how that's going to play out. So, yeah, it's just a natural concern that's worth having and being open and honest about. Yeah. How do you get commanders/generals? You basically build them. You unlock them, I think, at a certain technology, and you can just build them. They're just like any other unit. And as far as I'm aware, there is not a cap. But of course, a level 1 general is basically just a useless logistic bucket. You need to level them up to actually get specialization out of them and have like a general that you use on your front line, a general that you use for defending, maybe one that you use for like skirmishing, that kind of thing. Will we have mini Spiff forever? No, just for a little bit. I thought Civ 6 was a downgrade from Civ 5, and it took a couple of expansions until it stood on its own. Does Civ 7 seem to be, again, half a game to be finished later? No, I'd say that it's more of like a Crusader Kings free approach, in that the good features, they've tried to retain a lot of the good features. Like, they've changed the district system so that it's not the same as Civ 6, but it's not gone entirely. It feels more like it feels like there's a better foundation. Like the fact that we still have natural damages and like events and volcanoes. I couldn't imagine playing a civilization game without those natural disasters, because I'm so used to it in Civ 6, and so it's nice that that kind of stuff is still here. It's not like a paid DLC. But the problem is, being limited to the first age, I don't know how the future ages play out. Like, maybe there's a World Congress. I don't know. Maybe that's there. Maybe there's, like, for all I know, the final age gives you the ability to fly off into space and build space colonies. Like, the map expands even further. That could be awesome, but I just don't know. How long did the era feel? I think the era kind of sits at like around about 100 to 200 turns, and a whole game is meant to last around about 500 to 700 turns. So similar to a normal, like similar or slightly longer to a normal Civ game. But of course, there's all the standard turn speeds and pace of like playing on quick speed or marathon. Do we know how roads work? Yes, roads are built naturally, and they exist between cities. And they have the same modifiers of like speeding up logistics. Yeah. Cepheus says, I'm cautiously optimistic as time goes on. The more cautious and wary I am getting. Lol. Bose, I think that's okay. Like, I get it. I think that there are... The community needs to be certain... The community needs to kind of like not jump to too many conclusions. Because ultimately... There's a lot of fun here, and I think there's a lot that can be interpreted and misunderstood, and a lot of panic can spread easily. Like, the amount of dialogue I've seen online where someone's like, oh my god, there's a hard cap on cities. You can only have up to 4 cities at a time. And I'm like, no, that's not the case. Don't worry, don't panic. It's fine. It's okay. But yeah, there's a lot of this kind of like dialogue spiraling out of control, and I think it can create this negative feedback loop. But you have to remember that Civ games exist to innovate on each other. And the more they do so, the longer they can last as a franchise. And so, yeah, just because it's not, Civ 6 again, it's okay. Civ 7, it'll be different. It'll be fun. Maybe it'll be worse in a different regard, but better in another, which is how it will be. Like, this game will be, like, I don't know, there'll be people who are like, oh, Civ 5 had the best combat of all the Civ games. But maybe it had, the worst culture system. Civ 6 had the better culture system or whatever. And there will be people who have favorite features from each games, and this game I think will have many people's favorite features that they would love every subsequent Civ game to have, which will be fun. Upworlder says, hi Spiff, do you know if we'll need a 2K account or just a Steam account? You're fine with just a Steam account to play the game. You don't need a 2K account to play the game. It's purely for that reskinned bonus Napoleon. You have to actually have a 2K account. Alec Goldstein says, hi Spiff, is settling next to fresh water as important as it was in Civ 6? No, it wasn't. As far as I remember, I don't remember it having any impact at all. Someone says, do we know how walls will work? Yeah, relatively similar to previous games. You have walls, and then your units inside the walls kind of like have this extra walls health bar. So you can have like your archers sat in this defensive tile, and the opponents have to bring down the armor of that before they actually start hurting the archer. So it's very similar to like previous Civ games in that regard. So yeah, walls were useful and felt like a nice natural improvement to your cities that made them defensible. I don't think there was the ability for cities to fight back. Like they didn't like you didn't like have a free ranged attack. I don't think. Yeah. Supermax67 says paying more to play the game early is a concept that's been around before pre-orders. Think of all the times a game goes on sale as it gets older. The price wall has always been there. Yeah, it's kind of just another subtle way of keeping up with inflation, I guess, and making the average price of games higher at launch. Definitely. Thanks for your donation, by the way. Clint Boyett, can a perfectly managed Civ last forever or must it fall? No, it must kind of fall because there aren't really civilizations that do last forever. I know you give the example of China, but China didn't. Like, there are eras in Chinese history which have distinct names and themes, and the focuses were different. Like, there's the era of China where they were scared of the horse people and they built a massive wall. And then there's the era of China where they're able to mass produce plastics at an incredible degree. So I think think of it more as that approach. Like, just because the Roman Empire fell, it's not a shame. Your civilization is still living on in the like dark ages that exist in England for like the next 60 years or for the next 300 years until the Vikings come along and the Anglo-Saxons. Like that adds a lot to the gameplay, in my opinion. How are your first impressions of Civ 7 compared to Civ 6? I'd say the same. It's a video game that I'm excited to play and I enjoyed playing. Like, that's just it. Yeah. That's just exactly it. Did you see that Fog of War has a skin for pre-order? No, I did not. That is so dumb. That's so stupid. That's a terrible... I mean, I kind of get it, but like, why? Because that's just going to be... I mean, at the end of the day, that's just 2K being like, hey, we need another bonus for pre-order. So you know what? I'm actually okay with it. Because if it is just a skin for like your Fog of War, at least it's that as opposed to an entire civilization that other people can't play. Will there be mod support? I don't know if it's confirmed, but the devs were definitely alluding to mod support. Everyone was making jokes about the fact that you can immediately guess which leaders are going to be added to the mod workshop immediately, especially by the Hearts of Iron 4 like players. They really love that one guy. They'd love to have him in the game. Yeah. I guess another thing I want to talk about in the from the game's front is to do with AI. So there is the AI was surprisingly easy to trick in diplomacy. I'll see if I can bring it up. But kind of like when you're doing diplomatic deals with the AI, it was very easy to propose a deal that was truly terrible. Like a deal that was so overwhelmingly bad, where it's like, give me all of your cities and I will give you 10 gold. And I think there's an overflow error with the AI because it would evaluate these deals as becoming negative, well, as positive. Like an offer would be so bad, it would flip back around to being a positive, which was an exploit that exists in a lot of games. Like, for example, I know with like the Rome Total War Remaster, I have an exploit video where I basically conquered the world on turn 1 because you can just tell the AI, hey, give me all of your land and pay me 21 billion gold. And they're like, oh, yes, this is such a bad deal. We should do it. And yeah, you can kind of do that with the AI again. I mean, that kind of stuff's going to get fixed. But yeah, it's funny and I liked it. Another silly thing was the AI panicked in wars. There were a lot of other people playing who said that when the AI was beating them in a war, it would often offer a peace deal, which was like, hey, have all of our cities. It's like they're winning the war and they just hand over their entire empire to you, which is pretty funny. But that kind of stuff is definitely like a bug. Like, there's no way that is the intended feature. But yeah, there will be exploits, of course. Many exploits. But yeah, I love underflowing a system in a game. It's very fun. Did it look like there'll be scenarios like in previous Civ? I don't know. But the fact that there are ages that can be played entirely kind of like in one concise go is quite fun. Like, for example, you could play a game of Civ with your friends, which is purely just the antiquity game, like just the antiquity era, and maybe you play it on a slower speed, so you get like a full 500 turns just in antiquity, and you have a winner or whatever. Maybe you continue it, maybe you don't, but that leads to the potential that you could maybe get a like a mod or a DLC, which is just an entirely new age that you could play independently. Like, maybe you play an age which is just World War II. Like, it's just an age dedicated to maybe World War One and World War II, and you can just play that as one go, and someone could just make a mod, which would be really cool, because in terms of like modding potential, there's sky's the limit. You could make a Lord of the Rings mod, which is just an entire age or maybe even multiple ages chained together, which is cool, which is nice. I like it. I really kind of like that idea. Yeah. Is there map trading? I don't know. Like, when you meet a civilization, you can reveal your capital and they can reveal theirs, but I don't think there's like full-blown let's share what knowledge we have of the world borders. I don't think so. How do you feel about the removal of builders and workers? I think it makes sense because the micromanagement became tedious after like 100 turns, which is the balance basically. They've done a lot to rework the mid game to make it not tedious, which I think is a huge important fix for Civ. How different is border expansion in this to previous games? Rimphalion, it's very similar. Like, your city grows and it has culture and it has population, and as your population grows, you are physically annexing more territories and working more tiles, kind of thing. So yeah, it's very, very similar, I'd say. Is there a merchant trade route limit to your empire? There's a trade route limit to the opposing civilizations. Like, you can't have 400 trade routes going to Rome, but there are ways to increase it. I think I was playing as Rome and I had like a trade route to Egypt that was capped at like 1, and then after an event it was improved to 2. Is there espionage? Yes, there is espionage. Let me try and get an example of it, because it's kind of fun. The espionage is baked into the diplomacy. So, for example, you can see in the bottom left of this, there's kind of like this section called sanctions. Think of it as like the top stuff is treaties that are kind of like the basic stuff. Then there's endeavors, which is like working to improve your empire and an AI's empire. And then the bottom one is how can I screw over this empire? Which is pretty good. Like, you can denounce them, which makes them hate you, and then you can go to war easier. Or maybe you hinder their finances. There was one which was like, you can basically steal food, which is kind of fun. I like that. So yeah, there's ways to like subterfuge. Is it Humankind 2.0? No, it is very different to Humankind. Very, very different. In terms of how it actually played. In the way it was pitched to me, God, I was like, oh, it's Humankind 2.0. The game designer is telling me that he's made Humankind. And I played, and I'm like, oh, thank God, it's not Humankind 2.0. It's very different. It's a different game. Are there wonders? Yeah, there's wonders. And you can have as many wonders as you like. I stacked, I think, 4 different wonders in my capital, which was nice. And provided me with some bonuses. Yeah. Would I be interested in a trade agreement with England? Sol, I would love that. I would love that. Oh, dear. I heard you can also do diplomacy to meddle in another one's wars without warring yourself. Yeah, which is quite fun. There are ways to influence the world, which is good. Very, very good. Someone in the chat says, why shorts? The reasoning is very simple. This will break the algorithm. Yeah, and also I feel like it kind of made sense because I wasn't able to show my own gameplay. I didn't want to do widescreen because there'd just be a bunch of emptiness on the screen. It didn't make sense. Like, this is mostly a talking heads kind of thing, so it made sense as a short. Well, in vertical format, in my opinion. It's not a short. Are there still cities and states? Yeah, there's independent factions that you can mess about with. Let me try and bring it up. Actually, nope, that's not it. Back we go. Here we go. Independent leaders. So, for example, here is Carantania, which is a independent little city-state, and they are the Vendian. Oh no, they are actually the Caran. Yeah, they are actually the Carantania. And what you can do is you can befriend them, or you can incite a raid. You can basically get them to go out and pillage a different city or whatever, or you can just stand on top of them and punch them into the ground and kill them. Like, that's also completely fine. You can do that. Yeah. Cryo Drake says, if I build a wonder, does it deny that wonder to everyone else? Yes, it does. And they do still take up a district slot. You are physically putting the wonder down as a tile on the map. Yes. And the effects of that wonder might affect adjacent kind of stuff, similar to Civ 6, or have like regional effects or whatever. Yeah. Which is quite interesting. Another thing to talk about, which is to do with multiplayer, and I don't think I've seen anyone discuss, is what happens in multiplayer when, you know, this was one of the major problems with multiplayer Humankind, which is everyone wants to play the same best OP race. Like, you do the first game, you do the first stage where you're nomadic settlers, and then it's a case of, oh wow, I want to play Egypt because they have the production bonuses and that's the most powerful one. So in multiplayer, it becomes a race to who can pick Egypt the first. In this case, everyone could pick Egypt. That's one of the things. Like, you could be in a game where if everyone meets the requirements to be Mongolia, everyone could be Mongolia. You're playing it as different leaders. Like, you could be Benjamin Franklin Mongolia, I could be Augustus Mongolia, but we could all play Mongolia. So it doesn't screw over multiplayer. I think there will probably be an option where you can force it so that you can only one person could pick it. But I think by default, the idea is that naturally whilst multiple people could pick Germany, only a handful of people might meet the requirements for Germany, or like Inca. Like, I don't know if the Inca are a like faction, but they did mention that there would be factions where like you could only select them if either you were historically related to them or you were near a lot of mountains, for example. Yeah, I hope that's quite interesting. Do you always get first pick of a Civ? Can the AI steal your pick? Well, I think the fact that multiple people can play the same civilization, I think that means no, basically. Like, you could have multiple AIs playing as Rome. It's just they're playing as Cleopatra Rome, or I don't know, someone else Rome. I don't think that's going to be much of a problem, because from the sounds of it, there's going to be like a bajillion combination, so I don't think that will come up in single player very often. It's more of like a multiplayer thing, which is good because I think it works out better for balancing. Sans Bazinga says, is there religion? The answer is there isn't religion in the first stage. There's just pantheons. We don't know if there will be religion. And if it does exist, it will only come in the next ages. Are there still weird requirements for building certain wonders, like a river in a certain district next to it? I didn't have any wonders which had weird requirements, no. No. It was more like a Civ 5, where I've researched the technology, or I think some wonders were blocked by culture, I can't remember. And then I can build the wonder, yeah. Blue Jay says, now the entire world can be Iroquois, the way God intended. Indeed, Blue Jay, that's exactly what could happen. Someone says, feel like religion would be DLC. I don't know, I think the way the developers behaved implied that they knew that religion was a fundamentally messed up mechanic in previous Civ iterations. And I don't mean messed up as in like, oh, it was controversial. I mean messed up as in it wasn't fun to engage with. And so I think they intend to, like, they have plans to improve it, and they just haven't revealed what they are yet. If it is locked off behind DLC, I'd be surprised, but I guess it could happen. Infonova says, I joined late, but how are rivers handled? I was very excited for units being transported along rivers. Yeah, rivers are basically like just like ocean now. You can move ships up and down them potentially, which is good. It changes up the way movement is going to work, how combat's going to happen, and I think also how empires kind of form, which is nice. Yeah, I like the addition of rivers actually being meaningful. Grand Potato says, are you possibly going to do a Sins of a Solar Empire 2 exploit video? Maybe. I started recording one and I didn't stick with it. It wasn't a very good video. I kind of got partway into it and I was like, why would anyone watch this? So I gave up on it. I scrapped it. But maybe there'll be a Sins of a Solar Empire 2 video at some point. Yes. Yeah. Spiff, how is upgrading units? It's still the same. If you have a unit like a club man, you can upgrade him to spearman in your own territory with a cost of gold. But the main upgrading units that I really liked is that unique units are upgrading as eras go on. So if I have the Medjay, for example, which is Egypt's unique unit, let me find it. Or actually even like this one here, the Pura Betahara, blah, blah, the elephant unit. It will start out the game with, say, like 10 combat strength or whatever. And then as the age goes on, it will be leveled up and it will kind of keep pace. So it means the unique unit is a continuous thing you will use, and you will use it for its unique modifiers of +5 combat strength against fortified districts and ignore zone of control. You'll use it for that. It's not a case of I have a 10-turn window to use this unit in. You will just keep using it for the correct reasons, which is good. And then as you go into the next age, you don't have access to that unit anymore because your empire has collapsed, presumably. I mean, maybe you do have access to the unit, but you probably wouldn't be able to build it. Someone says winning is impossible until the last age. Kind of. Like, you can win an era. The way the game is designed is that you could play an entire game of Civilization in just one era or one age, because the ages are really long. It's not like Humankind where an age is 20 turns, whatever. An age is hundreds of turns. So I believe, yes, you can just win in like one age. Yeah, I think it is possible. Crazed says, sorry if it's a dumb question, but are there workers? Yes, there are no longer workers in the game. No longer exist. And David Kaufman says, important question. If you're in a car traveling at the speed of light and turn the headlights on, will they do anything? No. No, but like if you were in front of the car, no. If you were able to like perceive the car after the fact, I think yes, right? Yeah. Someone says, wait, this is the new Civ? Yes, the new Civ is a little spiff hopping up and down in the bottom right. How interesting. How do you build farms without workers? It's kind of like a physical tile. Let me get a bit of footage for you. So, for example, this is Egypt. They've settled the city of Wasset. I'll actually increase... Actually, no, I don't need to increase the size, but you can get the picture. And turn one, they can build a scout or a Medjay. They choose to build a scout. There's production, or they can purchase these units or whatever. And so, yeah, they spend their first turn building a scout. They research their first like tech of agriculture, which gives them the granary, which, as we can see, is +1 food and +1 food on farms, pastures, plantations, which is, you know, it's a building that you can build in your town. And then you also just get the natural +1 modifier of food on farms. Now, when it comes to actually building a farm, you kind of wait a little bit for your city to grow. So they send the scout out, and here we go. They're now going to actually build a granary, which they can physically place on the map. So they can build it over here, and that kind of grows out the city in that direction, and they get the effects of the granary. But there's 2 spots in each tile, so they could have just built the granary in their capital. Now they need to expand their city. This is pretty interesting. So basically, this is building. You are adding an improvement by expanding your city. So in this case, they are hovering over this river, which could add a fishing boat improvement on this tile. And that's what they've done. So they've now added a fishing boat to that river, and you get the improvements of a fishing boat, basically. Yes. Can you remove districts now? I don't know, but I'd imagine districts would change as ages end. But I don't know. Yeah. Can we expect the video explaining the short format? Maybe. I am still doing research on it. Provis mentioned that if you put both unique buildings in the same district, it makes a unique district. Did you interact with that system? Yes. The idea they were kind of going for is one where districts change over time, and that generally in a city, no one district has one specific focus. Like, there are parts of London where it's like, oh, there's a big cathedral here, but it's next to a museum or like a theatre. And so you've kind of got that mixed zoning, I guess. Yeah. Which is, it plays a strong role in the game. Goon Squad donates to say, what do you think would be the strategy around city placement? Closest possible for adjacencies like 6 or super flat to get tall like 5? I think city placement is going to be more resource focused and strategic focused because the importance on luxuries and strategic resources I think are more important for people's builds. And with someone says with sprawling cities will maps be bigger? Cities don't sprawl infinitely. I would say like it's not going to be like you're playing Civ 7 and the entire map is just one city. That just won't happen. Yeah. Another mechanic is towns, whereby when you build a settler and you plop it down, the settler doesn't make a city; it makes a town, which is kind of like a semi-autonomous city that you don't have as much control over. And at any time, you can choose to turn it into a city, or you can maintain it as this semi-autonomous body, which exists as like this option for people who don't want to micro everything, because there can be a point in like Civ 6 where you control so many cities and you're just conquering the AI over and over again, and you don't want to have to manually administer all of the cities as it becomes quite tedious. So you can basically leave it to remain as a town, so that you don't have to spend you don't have that worry of, oh god, do I really have to conquer another city because I'm going to have to spend 20 turns fixing it. No, you can just let it be a town, and then when the war's over and you actually do want to micromanage it and turn this city into a particular direction, you can do that. You just turn it into a city. Yeah. Person Guy says, can you pivot your victory condition in later ages? Yes, I do believe you can. If you're playing a multi-age game, it's very much like the early ages for you to lay a good groundwork and foundation of modifiers and builds, so that you can pop off in later games, or you have a strategy in mind, or maybe you're just flowing with it, kind of, I guess. Yeah. Hello, Spiffiest of beings. Unrelated, but I was expecting you to be playing Fallout London on day one. I couldn't because my office had no power, and it still doesn't. Like, there are no lights in my office, and it is getting dark, and I'm using my phone torch to illuminate the room, which isn't very effective. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Are the combat mechanics different? I'd say it's a mix of Civ 5 and 6 combined with Civ 4. In that you do have the logistical advantage of Civ 4 combat with the kind of like 1 unit per tile combat of Civ 5 and 6, with a greater focus spent on generals, which is fun. Please tell me the units ragdoll when you kill them on release. I would love that to be the case, but I mean, we can take a look from the actual combat footage, and unfortunately, I don't think the units ragdoll. The units actually physically on the map look really good. Like, I know this is zoomed out for you guys, but the animation work is really nice, and the actual combat animations are really cool. So, for example, what's happening here is a enemy general, or the actual player general, I think they're playing as like Egypt, has 3 units in their army as well as the general unit, and they're going to deploy their army in front of this Roman army, and there we go. So they deploy, the general stays there, and the general has a zone of influence around him, providing bonuses, and then using this unit they're then going to attack, which is the standard melee strength system with health bars that you can see. And so they attack, and then as you can see, the like units are thrown to the floor, and the combat, the animation stays, which is one thing that's quite nice. It's not like Civ 5 where the units play their animation and then they just go back to T-posing. No, like there is actual like continued confrontation in melee front lines, which is nice. Like, it actually feels like this combat is happening. It's not just like this, we're fighting now and now we're in the not fighting stage. Yeah. There we go. Whoa. Anyway, right. What happens if you try to attack a grouped up army? You damage the units that are in the army. Like, you can still do damage to it. Can you decide a formation of deployment, or is it auto? I think it is automatic, and it will always prioritize melee units to the front, horsemen to the sides, and range units to the back. Yeah. But there might be a way to manually do it. You can individually... Actually, yeah, there is. You can individually deploy units from the army. You don't... But if you press the deploy all button, it just does it, like, automatically. Yeah, which is useful. Any kill animations on the general? Yeah, I've killed a few generals. They do exist. Yeah. Oh. How many ways can you win the game? We don't know. We generally don't know. I mean, the ways that are alluded to, if if the game's skill tree is to be believed by like these focuses, these legacy paths, the logic is that there will be a scientific, cultural, military, and economic way to win the game, if I had to guess, because these appear to be like the pillars that you're getting advantages from. And the way it works is you kind of like in the military age, for example, the goal, the total, you will get like age points as you go along the path and do military things, but the total goal to unlock the military golden age is to conquer like 12 towns or cities. Well, to have 12 towns or cities and conquered settlements count as 2. So if you conquer 4 enemy cities and you have 2 towns, then you get this golden age, and that gives you various bonuses. Like, for example, the second bonus here is as a legacy you'll get plus 5% production towards military units in every town, which basically means you got a military victory in this kind of like age, which is pretty cool. Like it's kind of nice, and it kind of stacks as the ages go on. Yeah. On the release gameplay stream, they said there were 4 ways to win. Well, then I guess it's these ones. It's science, culture, military, and economic. I have no idea what an economic victory would look like. If it is literally just have money and win the game, that would be hilarious, because you will just, you'll just abuse. Well, I will win the game almost immediately, I guess. Based on everything described so far, Firaxis seems to be pushing towards short games being age-focused. Well, it's more that they're offering that as an option. Like, the main goal is still to string all of these ages together in a grand strategy, but it's providing you with this option to focus on just one age if that's all you want to do, which is fun. Are government types still important? Yes, as far as I'm aware, they are. Yeah. I was a despotic man, and that was good. It gave me bonuses towards troop stuff, which was fun. Economic victory legally by the planet. Yeah, that's my kind of thinking. Is there an undo button? I don't think so. I don't remember there being. I mean, Civ always has an undo button. It's called quick saving and quick loading. Yeah. Can you expand by buying out cells? I don't think so, no. I don't think so at all. Someone says, please can you gift units to city-states? I know that there is a lot of mechanics with city-states when you are their suzerain in terms of borrowing their armies, and I would imagine there is a way to give them an army as well. I didn't play with that, but I'd imagine that still exists. Well, is in the game. What happened to Civ 6? It's still there, and you can play it, and they even removed the 2K launcher from it. So, arguably, Civ 6 is in the best state it's ever been. Does a town take a city slot? Yes, it does, but the city limit isn't a hard limit. You can just go above it. It's just like a decision you have to make. Do you want to take the happiness penalty? It's the same as in like Civ 5, right? The more settlements you settle and the more population you have, the more happiness problems you have. And it's just like this scaling, like this endless slide of more cities is more unhappy. So whilst you can have infinite cities in Civ 5, there's a punishment for it in the form of happiness. The way it works here is it works in a way so that it scales better, so that you can play wider without it feeling mind-numbingly punishing. Did I really exploit their demo? Yeah, turn 0, I found a way to build stuff for free. I found a way to teleport units across the map. I found ways to print money. I found ways to trick the AI. I found ways to stack modifiers so that I could build like at instant speed. Yeah, I exploited the game a lot. What happens if a collapsed army is attacked? The units in the army take damage, and I think the general takes damage last. But general sniping will be a big factor, I think, in multiplayer, because they'll be the like VIP target. Is the world bigger? I know you only played one era, but the size of the world always bothered me. I think it's just down to the game settings. Like I played one game on normal options, and it was basically Pangea. It felt normal Pangea size on normal options. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. How did you teleport units around? I abused the general mechanic. So generals can have, when you fight with commanders, they can get upgrades, and the first upgrade in Assault allows units to move after being deployed. So you just deploy a unit from a general and it refreshes its movement. You move it into another general and that general deploys it and that refreshes its movement. And so you just repeat over and over again and you have infinite movement. It's fun. How similar is it to Civ 6? I'd say it's like 30 to 40% similar. Yeah, that's how I'd see it. One more turn doesn't quite seem speedrunning compatible. Yeah, this game does have one more turn addiction, which is the main thing of Civ. Was religious victory still too easy? I don't know if religious victory is an option. I really don't know. I really, really don't know. And I mean, religious victory is kind of an odd one. Religious victory in Civ 6 is the worst victory in the game, and it's not even close. Like, I don't like diplomatic victory, but religious victory is even worse because it just hurts to physically do as a player. Having to physically move that many troops around the map is not fun. It is not enjoyable in the slightest. Tiny Spiff for the win? Oh, I'm glad you guys like Tiny Spiff. Is there a chance that they will remove or improve the nation-changing system? There is no chance they will remove the nation-changing system. The decision they have made, in my opinion, makes sense because they want you to be able... They want... The focus is that you adapt to history. You are playing as humans, and as history changes and empires rise and fall, you are adapting to the world you live in. And the modifiers should be the same. Like, it doesn't make sense that Iroquois, who have all of their bonuses related to farming, are in the space age playing against empires that have bonuses for like building rockets. Or, you know, you're playing in the antiquity and you can build spaceships faster. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. So think of it as you are picking a character to play Slay the Spire with, and then as you go along, your civilization is your deck that you're adapting. And I think changing the civilization makes more sense than changing the leader. The leader is like your base build, your base standpoint, and then your civilization is your flavory thing that changes. It's kind of like, yeah, your leader is your class, and your civilization is your deck. I guess that's how I view it. It's kind of odd, and I really didn't like the way they explained it, but I enjoyed playing with it. Yeah. Your holy immortal leader. Exactly. It was like, when it was first pitched to me, I was very concerned. And I mean, I haven't, because we only played one age, I can't see how it actually plays out. But from experiencing it and looking at the combinations, it didn't upset me. It didn't bother me. And instead it made me think, oh, there's some fun here. Like, I can have a lot of fun with this system. Do I think everyone will have fun with the system? No. I really think there are some people who aren't going to enjoy it, and they never will. But that is the pillar of Civ 7 now, and so it's fine. And if you're saying it's bad, I mean, you haven't played it. Like, I have played it, and it was enjoyable for me. I don't think it'd be enjoyable for everyone. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just different. It really is just different. Like, there's no need to get like worked up about it because it's something that can't be changed. Like, I can understand why people would be really upset about it, because every time we've seen this system implemented, it has been like messed up. Like, Humankind, you don't feel any agency attached to your civilizations because you're playing an avatar with no personality or experience. In like Millennia, you're also not playing as like a character. You're playing as like a civilization that doesn't matter, and you're just going through ages, and just there's no civilization at all, so there's no character there. In this, you are playing a historical character. You're playing a historical figure, and the civilization changing kind of goes along with it, I'd say. Yeah, that's kind of like the vibe I got from it. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be for everyone. But in terms of the age-shifting mechanics I've been presented with in video games, this appears to be the most fun implementation of it. Yeah. Do you think they'll have an option to turn the Civ switching thing off? No, I don't think they will. It's the main mechanic of the game. Like, that is just that's just the idea of it. They made it worse than Civ 6. Just wrap it up, dude. Don't make me bring out the thing. I will bring out the thing, okay? Every Civ game is worse than the previous Civ game until you play the Civ game, and it's because, like, if you play Civ 4, you're playing it because you prefer Civ 4. If you prefer Civ 5, You're playing it because you prefer Civ 5. If you're playing Civ 6, you're playing it because you prefer Civ 6. And you're still playing these games. Like, you are still playing these games. These games aren't going anywhere. And it's okay. Like, there are people in the chat who are like, I'm not buying Civ 7 because it's not, because like it's bad and it's worse than Civ 6. And there are people who are like, I hate Civ 6. Civ 6 is bad. So, like, you're never gonna agree on it, right? That's the thing with Civilization. And it's what makes it such a great series. It's because it is this different game. The one core feature of Civilization is, how do you stand the test of time? You are a leader leading an empire. Like, that's all it is. You're a guy, you are the commander overseeing these humans, and you must lead them through the ages and the tests of time. And in previous games, I would summarize the test of time in Civ 4 as just expanding, basic 4x. Civ 5, I'd say the test of time became much more like much more focused on like wonders and like religion, and diplomacy played way more of an aspect. And Civ 6, surviving the test of time kind of morphed into physically surviving the world and like natural disasters and things like that. In this case, surviving the test of time and leading a civilization is now it's now about actually surviving the collapse of society. It's about surviving the end of an age. It's about surviving the sea peoples, which, you know, that's going to be. I'm interested to see how that plays out. It's every Civ game takes a different spin on, you are the leader of a civilization. Have fun. See if you can lead it. And yeah, that's it. That's it. That's all that matters for me. Clint Boyette says, I've only played Civ 6, which is your favorite one. My favorite Civ is a mix between Civ 3 and Civ 4. I really like the land destruction mechanics from Civ 3, and I really like the combat in Civ 4, but I also understand why people hate the combat in Civ 4. Yeah, that's my opinion. Yes, product is the best product that we will ever have, and it will never be surpassed by next product. Honestly, what makes the Civilization franchise special for me is the fact that it does change. Every Civ game is a big departure from the previous one, and it can be enjoyed. And that's all that matters, is that this is a game that people can have fun with. If they just released Civ 5 with new graphics, there would be no reason to buy it. There would genuinely be no reason to buy it. If they released Civ 6 with better graphics, there is no reason to buy it. Play Civ 6. But instead, they're trying to release a game where the loop is one of, like, actual, like, they're focusing more on the challenge and strife of leading a civilization. Which is, you know, that could be fun. That could be fun. Civ 5 with working MP, you know, yeah, maybe that could sell, actually. You know, they could probably just remaster Civ 5 and sell it again. Why not? That could work. They'd probably make a lot of money doing it. Any info on what the devs meant when they talk about the world expanding in the exploration age? I think they literally mean, like, when you go into the exploration age, new civs are added, as in, like, there's almost like a new world that you can just rock up to and there's people there. But I don't know, because we only played one age and they were kind of secretive about it. Yeah. So I'd say this game could be enjoyed, should probably need a little bit more budget marketing wise. Well, it's a good thing I'm not being paid by 2K, because I would not make a good, like, salesman for Civ 7, I think, because I'm very much an advocate of, like, just play the games you enjoy and don't be sad about the games you don't enjoy. Like, not every game is made for everyone. This very much feels like an Ed Beach passion project, which for certain people, this will be the greatest Civ game of all time. And to other people, this will be just Marmite. And did they discuss multiplayer at all? Yeah, it's like classic Civ multiplayer. Yeah. Except, of course, there's more focus on, like, ages, and there's also the option to play an age of, like, an entire game of Civ entirely in one age and just have a winner from that, which is interesting. Yeah. But their opinion is wrong. Yes, indeed. Cross-platform. Yes, it does have cross-platform, including with Nintendo Switch and PS4, which is wild. Very wild. I'm not a fan of changing Civ gimmick. I would to me, when I first heard it, it seemed as a gimmick, and actually playing it, I can see how it adds to gameplay. It does not feel like a gimmick feature. It does not feel like, lol, Humankind did it, we should do it too. It feels very much like the focus they want to put on it. It feels like a natural progression with the fact that their focus is on civilizations collapsing and rising and falling, and there being challenges in the middle of the game, as opposed to just endlessly continuing. Yeah. Nintendo Switch Online is dog crap. It's going to be a disaster. Yeah, these are my biggest concerns. My biggest concerns are the fact that it's releasing on every platform. I do not understand how they will release on every platform on the 11th of February. This is the thing that I think will... I'm not someone who is like, oh, it will kill a game, or this video game is dead on arrival, or I don't believe in that idea. To me, even Humankind isn't a dead game. It's just a game I don't enjoy that much, or I don't go back to as much as I do other games. I still play Humankind from time to time, but it's not my favorite Civ game. It's not my favorite grand strategy game. I play other ones. That's... Even if Civ releases in the worst state possible, it will still be a good game eventually. It's just this release format has the potential to release a bad game. And I am always wary of publishers that release in this format. Does the narration hold up to Sean Bean's? Yeah. Yeah, the narration is actually really crisp. Very crisp. Very good. Any great games to recommend? If you want a more recent strategy game, Sins of a Solar Empire 2 released and is very fun. Battle Brothers is great if you like turn-based strategy. Mechabellum is good if you kind of like auto-battling fast strategy. If you kind of have only 20 minutes, but you want to have a strategic battle with someone, it's very, very good. If you want kind of a strategy element that I think will actually get you prepped for Civ, I honestly recommend playing Slay the Spire. I really think that'll probably be quite useful for people in terms of learning a strategy. Yeah. Anyway, do you think TSL will be implemented somehow despite changing civilizations? Oh, true start location. I don't know, because I didn't mess with any of the world generation mechanics. I'd imagine you could definitely get true start location working, because you could just go for true start location of either the first civilization you play, or true start location of the I don't know, the leader maybe. I'd imagine they'd go for civilization, but yeah, it would work because you could do it on an age by age basis. If you're playing a game that's only in the industrial age or if that's only in the exploration age or only starts in the exploration age, then you could play Germany and you just true start location in Germany. Well, it's probably HRE, I don't know. I think TSL is probably in the game, but I don't know. Do you think Civ 7 will be very DLC reliant, like 5? I don't know. I really, really don't know. There wasn't any talk of DLC, but I imagine there'll be more focus on leaders and civilizations as DLC updates. Because I think their idea is that they want mechanics kind of more baked in with the base game. So yeah, that's my thinking. Zipforth says, how's the music? Music is good. It was nice. It felt like Civ. Yeah. Are there huge negative modifiers or something when an age ends? Yes, kind of. They're usually modifiers that real civilizations faced and problems that real civilizations faced. So, for example, if we look at this list, let me bring it up. You can see your towns, there's a modifier which is decentralization, which is punishing you for playing very wide and not micromanaging your empire. You get less gold and food from your towns of a specialization. So, yeah, basically your empire is straining under the weight of decentralization. Things like banditry. So if your empire is importing a lot of resources, there's a punishment for that. Barbarian mercenaries, that's quite fun. Your empire is relying too much on military. For example, many empires in antiquity collapsed because they physically ran out of fighting men and did rely on foreign mercenaries that in turn bankrupted the nations. Carthage is a good example of that. The fall of Carthage can largely be boiled down to not just losing the First Punic War, but getting screwed by mercenaries for so long. And then there are other modifiers like inferior tactics, whereby the independent powers, like the sea peoples that will start spawning in and raiding you, you have less combat power against them. Which, I like these features. They force you to adapt. What defines the end of an age? I don't quite know yet. We don't fully know because we don't know what it leads into. Yeah. Will you be uploading a video of this? I'll leave the VOD up so people can go back and watch it because we've kind of talked about a lot of stuff. Do you think that competitive Civ is dead? I think that competitive Civ exists in every game and it is created by the community. There is no such thing as Civ is never designed around being a competitive game. There are metas, and then there are people who modify the game to make a balanced multiplayer meta. The people who play competitive Civ 5 aren't playing Civ 5. The people who play competitive Civ 6 aren't playing Civ 6. Like, there was a video recently which was basically a guy calling out Potato Whiskey and saying, lol, he wouldn't survive a minute in a multiplayer lobby in like Civ 6 multiplayer. And that's because Civ 6 multiplayer for this community is different. Like, they play with mod packs and there's this meta and everyone plays around this rule set. And there's almost like so many gentlemen's agreements. It's like when you play, I don't know, you go to a new game shop and you play Magic the Gathering Commander, and you enter the shop and they're like, oh, you know how to play Commander. Cool, sit down with us. And they're like, oh no, when someone does a deal, you have to accept the deal and you can't break deals or you can't lie. And there's all these like things which stack on top of each other to the point where it's a different game entirely. So will Civ 7 competitive exist? Yeah, it'll just be made by the community and it'll be a different game. And to 99% of the player base, they won't enjoy it, so they won't do it, which is why the games are never built around it. They're never built around competitiveness. Yeah. It's kind of like people have made a mini game and they're perfecting the art of this mini game, and they get a lot of fun from it. And it's not wrong that they get fun from it. Like, that's kind of fun and that's cool. Like, they have these communities and they play games in them. It's just, you have to stop thinking about the Civ 6 multiplayer scene, well, the Civ 6 competitive multiplayer scene as Civ 6 multiplayer. Civ 6 multiplayer is like Barry and Gaza and two other mates who are in a university dorm getting drunk playing like Civ 6 at like 4 a.m. or whatever. Like, that's multiplayer. Yeah, anyway, right. I think I'm going to wind down this live stream because I've been going for 3.5 hours now. But yeah, it's good fun. I hope you guys have enjoyed the chats. If there are any last questions, yeet them my way. Is this only vertical? Yes, it is. It just made sense because of the format of what I was allowed to show and couldn't show. Why is this an aspect ratio? Don't question it, okay? Like, there's a lot of YouTube exploits that go into this. It's Civ, isn't it? Yes, the game is Civ. The game plays like Civ. You are placing cities. You are addicted to pressing the next turn. It's Civ. Yeah. Anything about great people? Not really. That's worth talking about. I think that will get talked about later. I don't really feel confident explaining it or talking about it at the moment, I don't think. Is there a loyalty system? Not that I encountered. Oh dear. God. Anyway, right. Let us head off. I'll end the stream and I'll wrap it up. If you missed the stream, don't worry, the VOD will be available and you can just go back to the start and watch it, as I've gone over, I think, pretty much everything. Yeah. And as always, this is a video game. It isn't released yet. 99% of the people talking about it haven't played it. Even the people who have played it have only got a limited experience with it and went in with different preconceived notions of what they were hoping from it, because remember, everyone has their own favorite Civ, and that's okay. That's okay. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you, Joe Bedome, for the £5 to say, Spiff, you're an absolutely dashing individual. Much love from up north. Thank you, Joe. I will see each and every one of you in the next one. Have a lovely night, friends. Enjoy your life. Go play your favorite Civ game or strategy game. Have some fun with it. And I'll see you in the next one. Yes. Goodbye. Bye, 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 bye.